Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody else in between, I'm Ashton Gene Lewis. This is the Broke Boy Sports Podcast. It's episode 101. It's either a sign that we're doing well enough that we can continue to do this podcast, or we've been doing this for too long. I don't know yet, so I guess we're just going to keep going until we find out. Today's episode is called Maybe It's Just a Cramp. Obviously in homage to one of Tony Romo's hottest takes of 2020, maybe his entire career, to be honest with you. As Dak Prescott's ankle faced the other way, Tony Romo, in the utmost eternal sunshine version of life, was just like, maybe it's just a cramp. I and Martyn Pate, my co-host here, Martyn right there. Martyn, I'll start off with this, man. At first, I clowned Tony Romo for saying that. I was like, come on, man. Like, as soon as you saw that clip, his leg is facing the other way. Come on, man. But then I thought about it, and I was like, dude, any person that's ever competed at any form of athletics has been in that exact same position, right, Martyn? Every person that you've ever known that's ever played a sport has had some injury where they've tried to be like, man, maybe I just rolled my ankle. And it's just like, no, you tore your ACL. Like, like you can't walk. You can't walk. Or the classic, the real classic one is like, I sprained my knee. And it's just like, come on, man. You haven't been able to walk straight. You haven't been able to walk straight for 3 days, man. You think it's just a sprain? You know what I mean? Like, I sprained my knee, and then I thought about it. I was like, nah, Tony Romo's actually right about that, because like every person ever who's ever played sports has been in that exact. Even like regular people, I would argue, even injury prone people, right? Like in life that don't play sports, they've all been there where they're just like they smash their foot up against the door, and they're like, one of two things. There's the person who freaks out about every single injury, which, hey, totally understandable. It's your body. You only get one of them, right? And you're like, did I just break my foot? Did I just break my toe? Or there's a person who's just like trying to walk it off, and every step that they take, the pain increases because they've actually broken something in their foot, and they're just not going to address it. Or the guys like, in the NFL, if you ever notice anything about every NFL player, in particular defensive ends, the pinky fingers, those things, for most defensive ends or football players or offensive linemen, they'd be going in all kinds of directions, like permanently in all kinds of directions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Ashton, I think people were so caught off about it is because Tony Romo, since he went up to the booth, has kind of dominated and been like the wizard up in the booth. Like he's gotten everything. Yes, like
He
calling
sees
out
it all.
plays, like pointing out what the quarterback's going to do on if he does play action. If the safety takes one step to his right, he's going to play action, throw it deep type of thing. And then we see Dak Prescott go down, and Tony Romo made a mistake. And for everybody out there listening, mistakes happen. We all make mistakes, and that is actually something I'm going to be addressing in what's popping in quarantine when we get to that in just about 30 seconds, Ashton. Mistakes happen. We shouldn't harp on like Romo made a mistake. He owned up for it. As soon as he realized what he did, he backtracked and like basically apologized for it and said like, okay, maybe he didn't just fucking have a cramp. Maybe something is a little bit worse. And then, we went from there. But yeah, Tony Romo, that's one of those things. The bad part about putting like your voice and your face behind things, like on TV, especially, you have to own everything. And so, I
By the
mean,
way, when they do the
yeah.
whole, like, Martyn, you can just see it now, right? Like in a year from now, when Dak Prescott comes back better than ever, because Martyn and I both, we say fuck Dallas respectfully because of guys like Dak Prescott. He makes it hard for you to hate the Dallas Cowboys, but we still do. Um, when he comes back in a year, fully recovered, maybe on the outside chance, better than ever, right? Better than ever. He gets on the path to rehab and all kinds of jazz like that. The bone heals up. He's somehow superhuman. When they replay the injury, Martyn, they're gonna have like that little dramatic music underneath it, and it's gonna have like the logo and everything like that for the Dallas Cowboys, and it's the video package that starts off talking about, or the E60. Sorry, you know what it is. I messed up. I forgot. They got to milk it as much as they possibly can. It's going to be an E60 special before it's the pregame package, right? E60
Yep.
special, they talk about like Dak Prescott on pace to outthrow any quarterback ever. And then all of a sudden, reality struck. Dun, 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 dun. And it goes to the video clip of him running. It's just a very casual day. Maybe it's Lisa Salters. Maybe it's Kenny Mayne. Probably Kenny Mayne with his dry ass voice. Probably Kenny Mayne. Shout out to the legend Kenny Mayne. Runs up, slides down, and then all horror strikes, and it goes to the audio clip of like the live game because they had the crowd noise and everything going at the time. Dallas is one of the few places that has people inside of it. We'll talk about stadium capacities a little bit later on too, and what's popping in quarantine. And then you see it, and you hear the clip of maybe it's just a cramp.
Yeah.
And then they cut to Dak Prescott in the E60 special. He's like, "Did you think it was just a cramp?" He's like, "Oh no." He's like,
he knew immediately. He pointed at it. He pointed at the sideline. He was crying.
How do you not go into shock? I'm sure you go into shock instantaneously off something like that,
Well,
right? Where you're just like, what? Like you see the injury before the pain hits your brain, right? And then all of a sudden you're just like, what the hell? Like,
well, there's those injuries that are like so severe that your body doesn't even feel it.
Yes.
So maybe that was like, it was because it fractured and it was compound, which means it completely dislocated and went through the skin. So like,
broke the leg and dislocated his ankle all at the same time. So tons of fun, I'm sure. It must have been so much fun to pull off that sock and to pull off that cleat for Dak Prescott. That must have just been it must have been just so awesome.
They had to have had him like sedated when they did that, right? Like
you cut the cleat off, right? Like that's why they cut everything off you, right? Because they never know like what's actually broken. You like cut the sock off, which by the way must have been hard because if there's a bone protruding out as a person cutting the sock off, you're just like, where's the bone at? You know what I mean? And then the dislocated ankle. How do you cut off a Nike cleat? Is my question. Maybe just like by the tongue, like all the way down, and then cut it down the middle, and hopefully it can slide off. But as you know, if you've ever had any sort of ankle injury, moving it in any shape or form is just terrifying and excruciating amounts of pain. But Martyn, we move on. Unless you had something else you had to say on that.
Nah, just there was a mistake, and I'm going to be talking about mistakes when we get into our next segment. What's poppin', Ashton? You've got 3 different things that's what's poppin' for you. There's a lot going on apparently, so you can take it away because I'm just going to get pissed off when I talk about mine.
This is not going to take all that long. Martyn's got a very personal one. Out of the 3 things I had to talk about here, by the way, what's popping in quarantine? We been, the world's been in quarantine, quote unquote. America hasn't, right? And that's part of the problem. What's popping in quarantine? Delusion. Lots of delusional people revealing themselves very, very quickly and then getting shut down, relatively fast afterwards. But there's 3 stories that I have that relate to delusion popping in quarantine. I'm sure you can guess 2 of them. They're both football related. The third one may catch you a little off guard, but we'll get there. I promise we will. The third one is very close to my heart, and you're going to hear the passion. And when I say passion, it's just pure unadulterated anger. But we'll talk about that when we get to it. What's popping in quarantine? Delusion. Florida versus LSU has been postponed this week to by the way, out of this whole situation, not a lot of people giving the SEC credit for taking that one random week during the football season, that like right before championship week or right before they decide who goes to the conference championships games and everything like that, Martyn. Mm-hmm. That 1 week where they play, like Chippewa State University. If Bama has been playing, I want to say like Central Michigan or something like that, but they basically pay a team like a couple $1 million to come down there and get their ass whooped.
Yeah.
So they can give the fans week. It literally could be called Cupcake Week, and if ESPN was sponsored, smart, they would get somebody to sponsor it like that. But they want you to sell it like on the up and up and everything. Anyway, that 1 week is the designated week for any game that gets postponed to be played. What a concept, Martyn. Having a set week for if a team misses a game or 2, they have to play in that week. What a thought. Moving on. Dan Mullins, after they had that overtime, was it overtime or was it regular time?
With A&M, it was regular. Yeah. It was at the end, or
field goal.
Yeah, it was a field goal at the end of the game because they fumbled it with like a minute and a half to go, and then A&M kicked the field goal, so it was normal.
By the way, Texas A&M being led by Kyle Trask, who is from Manville High School.
Florida is.
So yeah, Florida led by Kyle Trask, who, when they get to his draft profile and they talk about the winding path that his football career is taking, it's going to be interesting. Yeah. If you don't know, he used to be De'Aaron King, who was the starting quarterback for Miami's backup when he was in high school. And Manville was so good. This is when they had like 12 Division I football players on both sides of the ball. And then everybody else was going to smaller colleges on both sides of the ball. Manville, Texas is just outside of Houston. It's actually just outside of Pearland. which is who's the most famous Pearland athlete to connect that to? I don't know. A lot of the Rockets and a good chunk of the Texans live out in Pearland. So if you ever come to Houston, there's your plug. But anyway, Manville's like this super team, right? And they used to have this thing where they would be up by 30 points most of the time by halftime, and they would send Kyle Trask out there and have him play the second half because De'Aaron King didn't need to get hurt and all that kind of jazz like that. Anyway,
Ashton, really quickly, according to the Cron, which is Houston's newspaper, the most famous athlete from at least Pearland High School is Thomas Morstead, the punter for the New Orleans Saints.
I did not know Thomas Morstead was from Houston. H-Town, hold it down. I saw him play through like an ab injury or something like that turned out to be like a hernia, which means his intestines were like popping out in the middle of an NFL game. But anyway, but yeah, shout out to Thomas Morstead. I didn't know he was from Houston. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Manville had like stacked amounts of talent. Kyle Trask ended up, his head coach is now the quarterback's coach at Syracuse. His son is an offensive lineman there. His two starting quarterbacks are now starting at his two quarterbacks are now starting at two Division I programs, one in the SEC, one in the ACC. De'Aaron King is the starting quarterback for Miami after being at U of H and then being asked to redshirt what would have been this year. So, or what would have been the rest of last season, thus missing a good chunk of this year and coming back and being a part of U of H's quote unquote rebuild, which is a concept for professional teams. But we'll talk about that later. U of H, and he's now at Miami for the Hurricanes, leading them to one of their best seasons they've had in a long time. And Kyle Trask has been like off and on the starting quarterback for Florida the past couple of years. So he came back to Texas and they took an L. And Texas A&M has gotten the second most pivotal win in the last 20 years of their entire history, right? They got that Johnny Manziel win versus Alabama and beating Florida, who was number 4 at the time in the country, I believe, when they beat them, which I know at some point somebody's just going to look back on this season and be like, yeah, they were number 4 and not look at the context of the situation. There's a good chunk of teams that are just flat out not playing. The Pac-12 and the Big Ten are not playing, and that's at least 3 or 4 teams in the mix for top 25 positioning every single week. Anyway, Florida, top 10 team in the country. They take the L after the game is over. Their head coach, Dan Mullen, whose wife kisses all the players, if you don't know.
Yeah, if you follow Dan Mullen, it's one of those weird things, yeah.
We should talk about that at some point, but I don't have time to unpack the very strange nature of that. They have an E60 special on it. You should go look it up. Anyway, Dan Mullen said in his press conference afterwards, his Zoom chat press conference afterwards, with his Gator on, his Florida Gator on, the little pull-up draw thingy, but it was a Florida-themed one, so it was like a Gator. Anyway, Dan Mullen said they need to pack the swamp, and not in the political sense. The swamp is, of course, the nickname for Florida's stadium, like the horseshoe for Ohio State. Yep. Anyway, he said pack the swamp, which has a maximum capacity of 90,000 people. Also, Florida basically has no regulations or mandates anymore because they feel like, as the number 2 location in America in terms of COVID cases, they have beaten it. They've beaten COVID, although they are still number 2 in cases daily in America. That was subsequently followed by reality, Martyn. Reality struck very quickly in this situation. 21 players tested positive in Florida, and then I think it was 2 assistants outside of those 21 players that tested positive. 29 of those players are in quarantine. 55 players are required for you to be able to legally play according to the SEC's protocol for you to be able to play safely in this season. They had less than that number because not only they had 55 players, not including, that's just 55 players left on the roster. And if you know anything about football, it's a violent sport. So dudes are hurt as well. So they had actually less than 55 players available to play, and they have postponed this weekend's game against LSU to December 12th, which is the extra bye week. Dan Mullen afterwards, of just a couple days after saying we need maximum capacity in our stadium and then having sports shut down in his program for too many positive tests for a disease that we do not have a vaccine or a treatment path for, Mullen said, I certainly apologize if I offended people or anybody. Congratulations, Dan. The only person that you possibly could have offended was the integrity of COVID-19, and I think it accepts your apology.
Yep.
So he says, if I offended any people or anybody out there, I think anybody that knows me, here we go with the classics. Martyn, you ready to hear the classics here? If I think anybody that knows me knows our program, knows how we do things, have great respect for all of our local health officials and for what they have been able to do and what we've been doing here since July. He hits you with,
That's
I
a
think
PR
anybody that
101.
knows, yeah, if anybody knows me as a person, which naturally excludes everybody except like 12 people, if you're
Yeah.
like right, naturally excludes everybody. It's like if you actually knew me as a person, you would know I'm a good guy.
Yeah. All he wanted was to pack the stadium. That's all I wanted was the best for our fans and our players. Like I threw out the entire fact that we've been going through a pandemic for the past couple of months. Yeah, exactly. Ashton, for those not seeing us on twitch.tv right now, Ashton is doing the money dance because, that would have been a nice little boost to the athletic program, getting all however many people fit into the swamp. Is it
You know what the lot
100,000?
and Martyn, let's be for real. Them motherfuckers would have been there.
Oh, for sure. It's
They
Florida.
would have been there, 100%. 100% they would have been there, ready to cheer them on, ready to open mouth. By the way, some people are speculating that they traced it back to Texas A&M, which is interesting.
What's that?
They traced back the test. They traced back some of the infection back to Texas A&M,
Oh,
in
wow.
theory. So yeah, we'll talk about this later too. Multiple teams in the NFL have had to shut down practices today, or shut down practices multiple days. So that's fun.
Yep.
But we're still dealing with the delusion that it's over. We're still dealing with the delusion that a global pandemic is over and that it's not that big of a deal. And that's coming from a dude that's in like the hottest of the hot spots in America. Hottest of the hot spots. Anyway,
Look, if Kyle Field
moving,
can do it, we can do it here in fucking Florida. That was
which
his thinking.
I,
And then literally, what was it? 24? Not even 24 hours later is when they shut everything down.
it
Like,
was the perfection of the meme that's going around. This is how it started. This is how it's going. It was like
yeah,
the peak version of that. But yeah, Tennessee Titans. Moving on to delusion. We have multiple. Like I said, I have three parts to this delusional argument. Delusional. The Tennessee Titans. Come on down. And this is not coming out of a spiteful place. I'm gonna be honest with you, because as you know, I don't like the Tennessee Titans. Like wholeheartedly don't like them, because they, if there's one team that has taken the success of one season straight to the head, straight to their ego, it is Tennessee Titans fans. But after their game where they shellacked the Buffalo Bills, they hit them over the head.
yep.
They hit him over the head with a metal pipe like multiple times. Like we're talking like third, maybe possible brain damage with how hard they hit the Buffalo Bills. Multiple Titans players called everyone out for doubting them. In particular, with no surprise whatsoever, Taylor Lewan, who is the co-host of Bussin' with the Boys, which, by the way, very good podcast. I enjoy it quite a bit. Good episode if you ever want like recommendations. The episode with George Kittle. He talks to George Kittle and George Kittle's dad. And it was a really good episode. You should check it out. Anyway, Taylor Lewan said they doubted us. We overcame that adversity. And as he was walking to the locker room after they beat the Buffalo Bills in Nissan Stadium, which is where the Tennessee Titans play. The delusion that the adversity that your team and only your team faced this NFL season has been COVID-19, in that the media doubting you because you and your teammates of your own fruition went out and practiced somewhere else to skirt the rules that had not been established. To put it fairly, the NFL fucked up because they didn't tell you not to go practice somewhere else until like 2 days afterwards, which naturally means they found out that you were practicing somewhere else and they were like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, they got caught, and the NFL is like, oh shit, we're gonna get fucking bad publicity. We got to get ahead of this 2 days after it happened. Yeah, it's the NFL
So
for you.
my thing is like taking personal mistakes that your teammates and you made, right? And who's to say, like, you talk about they were investigating footage of dudes walking around without their mask on, people not abiding by social distancing, which, by the way, inside of an NFL facility, they can totally regulate that kind of shit. Those trackers and those masks come off after they leave the facility. And for a lot of players, let's be for real, Martyn, they don't go back on.
Yeah.
Like at all. Like they don't go back on until they come back tomorrow, which, by the way, think about that. Like if you're at an NFL facility for 8 hours a day, which a lot of good players are there for longer than that, right? But the rest of the hours of the day are plenty of time to contract COVID-19. For instance, how Cam Newton went to dinner with Stephon Gilmore, and that could have been how Cam accidentally passed it to Stephon. And who knows how Cam got it? Cam's got multiple kids, and I'm assuming that he's being careful in some way, shape, or form. Although Cam has been prone to do stupid things at times. Although the frustrating thing about Cam is he's a smart person. He just does and says dumb things sometimes, but you get over it. That just the delusion that it's everybody else's fault that your team tested positive multiple days in a row with multiple cases of COVID-19.
Don't they have a rallying cry now? Like it's us versus them, or they started a hashtag because of it?
They did the classic football move, Martyn. Anything that's perceived as anything that questions whether or not you have a chance to win, even if it's legitimate, us against them. Fuck them. Anyway, the Tennessee Titans. Shout out to you, and the delusional mind state you obviously exist in. I wholeheartedly hope, we never hope that anybody ever tests positive for COVID-19 and everything like that, because we want everybody to avoid this as long as possible, because the more people that avoid it, the sooner we can move on with our lives, because guess what, man? As days pass, I believe I start to, you like to think there's going to be a bright side of the silver lining to the situation, right? No guarantee that 2021 is not going to be just as bad or worse than 2020. Yeah, exactly. We'll find out. So we'll find out when we get there. Anyway, the last thing on delusional. So I'm a nerd, right? Like if you can't tell by the way that I talk on a regular basis, we're both kind of
nerdy. We're both little nerds. I'm such a nerd, Ashton. I've been taking up buying books on Amazon or something, and then having it audibled out loud to me. So that's how I've been getting my nerd on a little bit recently as well.
Which, by the way, is a great way to read books.
Oh, dude, I love it.
It saves your eyes, and it gives you information while you're doing other things. If you're not, my thing is I barely listen to video games anymore, because when I play video games, I'm listening to articles being read aloud to me, or listening to podcasts. Yeah. But back to the original point. I'm a nerd. I like comic books. I like superheroes. I like superhero movies. I read a ton of comics. I listen to comic book podcasts. I listen to geek podcasts and all. Maybe the better term is geek, because there are plenty of stupid geeks, and by definition, nerds cannot be stupid. My favorite superhero is the Green Lantern Corps. If you don't know what that is, it is basically like they're space cops. Their primary weapon, their gun and weapon of choice, if you were to compare it to what happens to cops here on this planet, is a power ring that is fueled by the wearer's will. Like their will to exist, their will to victory, their will to exist, their will to move on, and everything like that. In 2011, an atrocity was committed. Somebody decided to make a Green Lantern movie about Hal Jordan, who is the most famous, if you're a comic book fan or if you're like an original Green Lantern fan. He is the Green Lantern you think of, unless you're of our generation, and we'll talk about why that's different here in a little bit. But Hal Jordan is the primary Green Lantern in the comic books that most people know about and learn about and read about. They made a live action movie with him and Ryan Reynolds that may be the worst superhero movie of all time. And that's saying a lot, because Iron Man 2 and Thor 2 are very bad films. Ever since then, I watched that. By the way, as a huge Green Lantern fan, like most of the comics I own are Green Lantern comics. As a huge Green Lantern fan, I was super excited about this. I was like, oh man, I hope they just do like a decent job so they can get like 3 or 4 more of these things popping off, and it starts off the DC Comics cinematic universe and everything like that. And Green Lantern will be in the Justice League, and it'll be just like old times when I used to watch Justice League as a kid. All the different iterations and versions of Justice League I've ever watched since then as well, and um that did not happen. As a matter of fact, after that movie, I fell asleep in that movie. That's how bad it was. And I
Damn,
love
for
Green
real?
Lantern. Yeah, straight up. The final. So, hey, here's a free one for anybody who's ever directed a movie. There needs to be like actual audible sound in your final fight scene, other than like power exchanges and like beams of light and everything like that. There needs to be like actual dialogue between the fighters in that situation to create like an emotional connection, also to create a memorable moment instead of doing like beam fights like we're watching Dragon Ball Z, which it was cool and it is cool sometimes, but it's not cool when it's a live action CGI movie because you can't do the CGI like it's real. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. Green Lantern film, brutal. Destruction of something that I love and hold dear, really. Out of all the other superheroes, Green Lantern is my favorite comic to read. Shout out to Jeff Johns, the writer of like the best arc in the history of Green Lantern. 2011, I assumed that wasn't coming back for another 20 years. And I was like, oh, they can't make another one after that. I was wrong. There has been announced a new Green Lantern show for HBO Max, which is their new streaming service they're releasing, I think, in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll start off like this, and I'll tell you why I'm mad. This is directed by the same group of people who directed the original 2011 film.
Oof.
So
Oof.
we're already off to a bad start, right?
The only thing that could have been worse is if it was fucking D&D from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can talk about Game of Thrones later too. We talked about that before the show started.
Yeah.
But in this Green Lantern TV series that they're putting together, which of course is going to be massively expensive because if you know anything about the Green Lanterns, every weapon they make is constructed out of their ring. So it's like almost cartoonish in the way that some of the objects present themselves. So it's a lot of CGI and a lot of work to make the CGI look real. The main character, the centerpiece of this Green Lantern show is Guy Gardner. Why is that a problem for me? If you're not a Green Lantern fan, if you are a Green Lantern fan, if you were born in the same time period that Martyn and I were born, you watched the same Justice League TV show that used to come on Cartoon Network all the time. And in that Cartoon Network show, they had 2 Green Lanterns. One of them was Hal Jordan, and most importantly, the other one was John Stewart. John Stewart is one of the few black superheroes that exist in all of comics. He is also one of the few highly revered black superheroes in all of comics. Black Panther is, of course, for a lot of people at the top of the list because of what's going on now. But even beyond that point, John Stewart is Green Lantern for an entire generation of comic book fans. He is like the very drop of diversity they put in the pool of white superheroes in DC. And this show, if you don't know who Guy Gardner is, it's because he's like the he's like the 5th or 6th most popular character in the Green Lantern comics. Guy Gardner, being the main character of this show, is the equivalent of starting your 4th-string quarterback off the practice squad. When your starter, your 2nd string, and your 3rd string are 100% healthy.
Makes sense.
This show it's just been announced. It was announced last week. It is already bullshit in my mind. I feel like this comes off like it's intentional. And of course the rumors are now that Michael B. Jordan is supposed to be portraying John Stewart later on in a DC film as for the Green Lanterns and all that kind of shit like that. Haven't seen anything confirmed about that yet, right? So who knows? Most important thing about this is that they chose like the most mediocre of all the Green Lantern characters. There's a Green Lantern who's not even a human who's more famous than Guy Gardner. Guy Gardner is, in the comics, a douche. He's a British douchebag. by the way. Like that's well held. So this is just like it better be good. Is all I'm saying because I'm already pissed off and I haven't seen a single episode. I haven't even seen a trailer. The only positive out of this whole situation is they're featuring two other really important Green Lanterns. It's Jessica Cruz and Simon Bass. Jessica Cruz suffers from massive amounts of anxiety to the point where she does not leave her apartment, like even to eat. She's afraid to go to like the door to get her takeout food. She is also one of the few Latinx characters in all of DC. She is massively important, especially since Martyn and I are a part of a millennial generation that is pretty open about mental health. And Jessica Cruz, a big part of her becoming a great Green Lantern is overcoming her mental health situation and coping with it and dealing with it in the heat of battle. Other guy, Simon Bass, one of the few Middle Eastern characters portrayed at all on TV in terms of superheroes. And he is going to play a big role in this as well. He's got a dark past and a lot of other things. He also has to deal with the fact that he is Muslim in America, which of course comes with its own baggage. So the guy forefront, like front and center, is Guy Gardner, generic white guy who acts like an asshole. The other two characters, I have a lot of hope for. I just felt it was massively disrespectful to a character that has been around for such a long period of time, already has an established fan base, and really for a lot of people is the definition of Green Lantern in their mind. Like when they announced this on HBO Max's Twitter account, there were people in the comments that were like, "Wait, isn't Green Lantern black?" So yeah, even though Green Lanterns is like an organization, whatever. I just want to put that out there. The delusion that that's the real version of like Green Lantern, that's the best path to go on, is just another step in what seems to be the abyss that DC is falling into. So anyway, Martyn.
Yeah, you had three things popping for you this week. I've got one thing, and it has to do with fantasy football. And we've actually got somebody coming in here. We're gonna call him Scriv, coming into the chat on twitch.tv/Broke Boy Sports. And I'm gonna get to my fantasy rambling here in a second. But he's actually got a good question here, Ashton. And so, would you trade Mike Davis, the running back now for the Carolina Panthers, for Julio Jones? He's already got Kamara and CMC on his bench. He's in a 14-team PPR. His wide receivers right now are Mike Evans, Julian Edelman, and Justin Jefferson. So he's trading Mike Davis to get Julio Jones back. And he says, is it worth giving up Davis with a potential re-injury for CMC, or should I not worry and go ahead with Julio and start CMC when he comes back?
So we're talking about an injured player for an injured player for a guy who's going to get his reps cut significantly when the injured player comes back, right?
Yeah.
The biggest question, of course, the ambiguous question, Martyn, between the two of us, we both know this. How are they going to split that up? Because if it's half and half, that's a 50% drop off in carries for Mike Davis.
Yeah.
And more than likely, it's going to be more severe than that, right?
Well, I just have one real thing. You're in a 14-team PPR.
Yes.
He has to. How do you have Alvin Kamara, CMC, Mike Evans already? Like that is
because the guy's good.
I was about to say you either drafted perfectly or one
smart.
of those is a keeper. There's got to be a keeper in there somewhere. But
hey, Martyn, you also overestimate the intelligence of people in fantasy football.
Like the rest of the people in his league. Yeah, but here's my thing on it. Julio Jones is hurt, but who do you think over the rest of the season in a PPR? Even if if I don't know, I would have to hear Stephania Bell or somebody talk about the how likely it would be that CMC could re-injure himself. He traded Antonio Gibson and David Johnson for Christian McCaffrey.
So Mark, by the way, sucker play.
Yeah.
Shout out to you for hustling that guy.
The guy I traded with was 1-3. He needed more running backs. Okay.
Oh my God, this guy! I like this guy.
Those are the type of guys you want in your league.
He saw somebody desperate to make a play.
Yep.
He saw somebody desperate to make a play, and he gave them exactly what they wanted. Who was hot right now?
Antonio Gibson. Hell,
exactly.
I mean, this guy the guy that had CMC at first was probably like, man, I'm about to be 6 weeks in the gutter without my number one pick. Just give me any. He literally traded David Johnson, who you and I have kind of laughed at for his running production so far this year, and Antonio Gibson, who, if this is a keeper league, solid fucking keeper, solid keeper if it's for next season, for
So
arguably the best running back.
So let's answer Scribb's question, right? He's talking about making this trade to get Julio Jones. Julio Jones, a guy who has been one. Okay, so Martyn, what's the world like when Julio Jones is 100% healthy?
He's probably top
Everybody's
3.
triple. He's being triple teamed, right?
Yeah.
He's not going to get you as many touchdowns as you would imagine a guy of his caliber would, right?
Yeah,
My
for
thing
some
is,
reason in his career he's not like the.
it's because literally he is a fucking giant, and that they have to send 3 dudes to stop him from even looking at the ball. I would say ride the CMC train, man, because at the end of the day, so Martyn, this logic sticks up and holds up. Christian McCaffrey comes back, he's still good trade bait. Like somebody else will take him.
Yeah.
Like, somebody else will get him. So
Well, according to ESPN and a couple other sites that I've just pulled up here about Julio, he's not injured anymore. So
yeah, so he
I'm
actually
hammering
today.
accept. If that person has offered you that trade, Julio Jones for Mike Davis, and you've already got Kamara, CMC, I mean, it would have to depend on like your raw, like how many people you can start and all that stuff. But it seems to me like you have more than enough room to give up Mike Davis right now. And
Also,
by the way,
like,
you're getting a top 3 wide receiver, and you've got Mike Evans. You've got Justin Jefferson, who could possibly be your keeper for next year as well. And Edelman,
hey,
Edelman is a number 3. I'd take Edelman as a number 3.
Martyn, is this wait, my man, Scrib in the comments, bro? Is this a money
He said no
league?
cap. He's been making hella good trade. It sounds, dude. It sounds like you've been fucking on your p's and q's with your trades right now. But
It
give me
sounds like
Julio Jones.
it sounds like you're playing fantasy football with people who don't understand football like at all. Yeah, man. Hey,
I
hustling.
think what, like you mentioned, he's probably, I think he's like trading with the people that are desperate, like looking at the bottom of
Oh,
the standings. Like
see,
you got to be
see
smart.
the
Like
see the thing is, man, you on the up and up right now. These people, like, once they figure out the hustle that you just put on them,
yeah, they,
next season,
yeah, they're
that's
gonna be
your
mad.
problem.
But
Next season, that's your problem. You're gonna become the no trade guy, but until then,
keep
you can.
doing it.
If you, okay, my question, Martyn, be the no trade guy for 2 years, win a championship this year, though.
Yeah, exactly. Put your
Worth it.
name on that trophy.
Worth it.
Yeah. Oh
Put your
yeah.
name on the trophy, bro.
I think I would have stopped, thought about it, and said, how high or how drunk was this person offering me this trade? And I would have accepted it, because even though he's been hurt and Julio Jones has been knocked out of like what 2 or 3 of the games so far this year, didn't play against Chicago, and I think didn't he got hurt against? No, he didn't get hurt against
Yeah.
Dallas. He
So
just had a
he's.
bad
I mean,
game.
dude, like, let's be for real. He's basically had a hamstring injury since week 1, right?
Yeah,
Um.
and
He
he's
had,
no longer on the injury report, so he's cleared. He's gotten at least 4 targets every single game he's played. You're playing in a PPR. I mean,
and you can live
you and
with
I talk
Julio
about.
Jones not being your number one guy. Like, you can
Yeah.
live with like you can survive Julio Jones not playing well, which of course is just like not gonna happen. And their schedule gets a lot easier because they
Yeah.
come up a little bit later on in this show. If you stick around, the Atlanta Falcons are actually one of the centerpieces for our segment Worst of the Worst. So yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
you
I
take
would
the trade.
accept it. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
accept it. Yeah, there is a. I guess all it comes down to is how fine you will be not having Christian McCaffrey. Like, what you're hoping for is Christian McCaffrey being healthy in the playoffs more to help the week 7. When's he coming back? Week 8? Week 7, week 8. Like, I think you can live fine with Kamara. Um, Kamara. So your team, it would depend who your other backup would be, I guess, since you probably have to start 2 running backs. You're obviously not starting CMC while he's on IR. So it'd be probably Kamara, Evans, Jefferson. I'd start Jefferson over Edelman right now. Um, and then Julio Jones. You'd kind of just want any running back that's getting about 10 touches a game for be your number 2 running back while you're waiting for CMC to come back. At least
And
that's my thought on it.
sometimes it's about the long run. You take a
Yeah.
couple losses here and there, but at the end of the day, you know CMC's coming back. But Martyn, shout out to Scriv in the comments for dropping that one in there to break up that super serious Green Lantern conversation I was having. Anyway, Martyn, what's popping in quarantine for you, man?
Man, we're on the topic of fantasy right now. I brought it up on Tuesday, and we're now 5 days into one of the biggest controversial topics my main money league has ever dealt with, Ashton. Um, your boy admittedly has been involved in just about all of the major controversies
The
we've had in this
scandal.
league. So I already know, like, you got to understand where the other 11 people in this league are coming from. Like, I I am admittedly very vocal when I win, and also very vocal when things aren't going my way. I will admit that. But so this is what's going on. 2 weeks ago, I had 5 players out by injury or by COVID, and we basically half-ass decided. Like, we never fully came to a decision. This is the gray area
He's
of
already hedging the bet. You hear that?
no, this is the gray area. We never actually agreed on what the protocols were for COVID related games getting suspended or postponed. We never came to a consensus we never even talked about it really in the preseason or like before the draft or anything like that. And then so now week 4 happens. Everybody that follows the football season knows that week 4 this year in the NFL was when shit hit the fan with COVID. Um, and so uh, it came down. I traded for Kelsey that week, Travis Kelsey, and that was when the Chiefs game against what was it, the Patriots, was in doubt. We didn't know if the Patriots and Chiefs were gonna play, so I'd already had people that were out. Philip Lindsay I couldn't drop because his game was the Thursday game before everything happened, and honestly, he was probably the person I would have dropped in like a perfect world. Would have been Philip Lindsay and not Henry Ruggs. But anyways, I'm not. I mean, here's the other options that I had to drop Ashton at the time. Cam Newton. Cam Newton. That was the week that he got COVID and was put out. Buda Baker, who was one of my IDPs, was out that week with a injury. You're not. I don't think I was gonna drop. I don't think dropping Buda Baker, who is probably at the time my number one IDP, but now we got Patrick Queen, so that's a different question. But anyways, um, so Henry Ruggs was basically the only person I could drop to pick up Austin Hooper. And what we were gonna do, and what I thought the rule was, we could make a roster move, i.e., dropping somebody, picking somebody up, and replace it. Like, basically, if Travis Kelsey played, I would take Travis Kelsey's points. If the Chiefs didn't end up playing that week, I would sub in Austin Hooper and take Austin Hooper for the week, and then drop him and get Ruggs back. As it so happens, Travis Kelsey plays his game. So, Tuesday comes around. I go into the app on my phone, I click drop on Austin Hooper, and I click add on Henry Ruggs. Fast forward to Sunday.
Allegedly.
It's not allegedly. I did that. Like, there's no if it like the first thing I did Tuesday morning was get on my phone, drop Austin Hooper, and add Henry Ruggs. So Wednesday is when the waiver wire goes through. I didn't fucking look at my bench from that moment on. Mistake number 1. Sunday comes around. I'm laying in bed debating between Brandon Ayuk and Henry Ruggs in my head. Didn't look at my bench because I thought I had Henry Ruggs. I'm literally up until the game kicks off at noon. I'm debating, do I want to start Henry Ruggs against the Chiefs or Brandon Ayuk against the Dolphins? Brandon Ayuk had back-to-back touchdown weeks. He was playing what I would consider the worst of the two defenses. So it's a fucking no-brainer that I start Brandon Ayuk over Henry Ruggs. Fast forward to Sunday night. Henry Ruggs has a good fucking game. His first and only good game of the season. Somebody in the group chat texts, man, what a crazy stat line Henry Ruggs has. 2 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown. Somebody else in the group chat. Yeah, I believe Zane had Michael Thomas, and that was the week Michael Thomas got put out for getting in the fight. Zane says in the group chat, yeah, I was going to add him and start him instead of Thomas. And that's when I said, no, Henry Ruggs is on my team. who I dropped last week and who I had brought back because of the Austin Hooper situation. And then they were like, no, he's in free agency. I was like, what do you fucking mean he's in free agency? And that's when I went and looked and noticed that Henry Ruggs wasn't on my team. So, yes, from Wednesday to Sunday, I did not notice Henry Ruggs wasn't on my team. And I have owned up to that. However, the only reason he was in the free agency pool for any amount of time is because of the COVID replacement thing I thought was in place. Multiple people in the group chat agreed to the switch. Two of those people have since changed their minds after Henry Ruggs has had a good game, and after the fact I went 4 days without getting him back on my roster, have now changed their minds and are saying, tough fucking luck, you should have added him. The only reason they've changed their minds is because Henry Ruggs had a good game. If Henry Ruggs goes for 0 yards and everything like that, this isn't even a fucking conversation. The only reason they're fucking doing any of this is because Henry Ruggs had one good game and I made a mistake. And I've owned up to that mistake. And it's now Friday. This happened on fucking Sunday. It's been a whole fucking week of arguing in our group chat. And they're saying I'm a fucking cheater and that I'm trying to bend the laws. Oh, by the way, we've also had somebody else in this league, Ashton, who literally just went through the same thing, dropped a linebacker, and somebody picked up his linebacker in free agency when we thought the rule was you weren't going to do that. And now it's just fucking, I'm just fucking pissed off. I made a mistake. I've lost potentially my keeper for next year. And it's so fucking dumb. And then the fact that the dude that picked him up texted the group chat about an hour or so ago saying I'm going to keep him on my bench for the rest of the fucking season out of spite. The only reason you're doing it is out of spite. Get the fuck out of here, dude. Like that is so immature. Like,
yeah, he's also supervillain shit there. He's just like, I'm just gonna keep him so you can't have him, which by the way is a legitimate fantasy strategy. But in some cases, when it's on the up and up, Martyn, we know this. It is a legitimate fantasy strategy.
100%.
But by the just apparently people wanted me to weigh in on this situation. Martyn has already confirmed to me that he is willing to just move on with his life.
Yes.
How about we all just? He's just like, it's over. All right.
I've already
got Henry Ruggs. Like, what am I gonna do about it? You know what I mean? He said that already, so we're done.
Here's the thing. I have a list of like each and every season, and like a couple people say this isn't true. They have it out for me. Just like. I tried to trade for Eddie Lacy one year at the trade deadline and traded 3 keepers for him. And they vetoed and fucking went insane saying that I colluded with the guy that I traded for. And all this bullshit for Eddie Lacy, who ended up not doing fuck all those next 3 or 4 weeks for playoffs after the trade deadline.
They helped you.
Dude, it's so fucking like...
Nah, Martyn, I'm just saying, man.
Oh, by the way, they also prevented me last season from trading Sammy Watkins for Antonio Brown, and the next day, or their argument was that Sammy Watkins isn't a starter in fantasy, which is complete bullshit. You should start Sammy when he's healthy. The next day after that trade got vetoed
Make sure you listen to that caveat that Martyn said when he's healthy.
Antonio Brown got suspended from the league the next fucking day after that trade didn't go through. And I haven't laughed at the...
Martyn, you're complaining. They helped you every...
Yeah.
You know what, Martyn? Nobody's got it out for you. Those are real friends. Real friends. How many of us, in the immortal words of Kanye West, trust issues? Just saying. I mean, they helped you out twice, and you're over here mad about it.
All right, yeah, okay. I've never looked at it that way, Ashton. I needed the light. I needed the ring light that you just got.
You needed the ring light. Which, by the way, if you're watching on twitch.tv, you can see me for the first time probably ever for some of you guys on this show. It is tough being a black person trying to do a Twitch stream without, like, designated lighting, and we fixed that.
So, yeah, anyway. So what is your thoughts on somebody who... So we never agreed for or against the rule. Here's the thing. We never...
So Martyn,
it's a gray area.
Martyn, see, we got ourselves here. We got ourselves a classic case of the unwritten rules of baseball. We can't
So
be mad at what happens when people break the rules. There just has to be retribution. The only thing that I can think of that would help you get even is Henry Ruggs, Terry ACL.
please
I'm
don't. That
kidding.
would be
Don't do
fucked
that.
up.
Don't do that, Henry Ruggs. My thing is, you get even with them by winning the championship. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying. You can hope and pray if you're a praying person that Martyn has to play that guy,
I don't know if I think I might have
and
already
then he
played him.
gets four. Okay,
I'm
well,
not sure. I
yeah,
can
man. It's
let
just
me
one of those
pull up my.
situations where it's like, yo, man, we got a lot bigger things to be worried about. Like I said, you got to be worried about getting on this playoff path, man. Some of you guys are in some rough spots. Like I know we're in a week right now where you're either two. Some of you guys are 2-3. Some of you guys are 1-3. Some of y'all are like 0-5. So,
But here's the thing, really quickly, so that we can just get we can. Well, actually, I'm looking at my schedule right now. I played him week 2 and lost to him. Guess who I play in the last game of the regular season?
let's go, revenge game,
the dude that has
revenge game.
the dude with the
I love
fucking
sports.
with Henry
See,
Ruggs. Yeah.
there, I love it. Revenge game.
Yep. Yep.
Let's go.
So just really quickly, what are your thoughts on um, for whatever reason, Henry Ruggs not getting added back because I, I'll say it till
Oh,
I'm red in the face.
honestly, bro,
I added him.
I
I
think that's a
clicked
waiver
add.
wire thing. I think it's a waiver wire thing. I don't. You said you did it on Wednesday, which is most people's waiver day.
No, I
Most
did it
people's waiver
Tuesday.
day.
Wednesday is when it
Okay.
goes through. Wednesday
Okay,
is
so it
when
was
it
definitely
should
a
have.
waiver. It was definitely a waiver thing.
Yeah.
He put Clayman on Henry Ruggs, and he was higher in the
No,
hierarchy
no, no,
than
no,
you
no.
were.
He did it after Sunday. So I don't know. Apparently, there is no because you know how like ESPN lets you know what roster moves everyone does. There's
Yeah,
no, there's nothing
interesting.
there of Henry Ruggs like not getting added back for a specific reason. It's not there. So I can't really argue. Like, there's no evidence for me to argue that. Like,
Mm.
even though I know for a fucking fact, I went drop Austin Hooper, went straight to Henry Ruggs, and clicked add. There was there like that happened, but it didn't go through on ESPN. And so
I don't know, man. You know how.
that's their biggest thing is if there was a if there was like a thing where it said couldn't add back because of roster limit, which to me personally is what I think happened. I think I had somebody who was in IR who on Wednesday was no longer IR eligible. So you can't make a roster move with somebody in IR, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that may be where it is, but there's no thing on ESPN which says that. And so I'm fucked. I've lost Henry Ruggs and I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to fucking continue the season, but they're
And
fucking
Martyn, more than likely, based off of the last two examples you gave, when there's been some things going on with the veto of the trade, Henry Ruggs is about to fall off a cliff, like game wise. So
we'll see.
let that be a harbinger of information there. But yeah, Martyn seems like he's ready to move on. I think we're all ready to move on. We need to kick that bad vibes out of our energy. Keep that bad energy away from your fantasy football team. So naturally, it's time for us to talk about some really good things that happen in sports and some really
wait,
bad things.
really quickly, Ashton, we got one more question from Scriv. Who would you guys trade Michael Thomas for?
I mean, you should always be trying to hustle somebody for a running back of some sort, but that's just my theory. Or maybe if you can get a quarterback out of it. Some people, depending on how desperate they are, will give you like a startable quarterback, which is weird. But
See, I might go a different route, Ashton. I would look at tight ends.
if you can get Michael Thomas from Travis Kelce, you take
Yeah,
that. Like,
or like I think here's probably the four. I've probably got 3 or 4 in my head. So Travis Kelce, obviously, if you can do like Thomas for Kelce straight up, or maybe like Thomas and or Kelce and another player, like depending on how
or
the other.
somebody you don't like all that much.
Yeah. Like for me, if I had T.Y. Hilton, I would do T.Y. Hilton and Michael Thomas or Travis Kelce and see if the other person will bite. Maybe Mark Andrews. Here's the other name, like a name that Darren Waller, maybe, but Jonnu Smith. If you guys have been following Jonnu Smith this year, he is, to me personally, I mean, he's probably Ryan Tannehill's favorite target at this point.
Yeah, with AJ Brown hurt, he's had to find Gianna, who's like huge in the end zone.
Yeah.
So he's been actually getting a lot of touchdown catches. And to Giannu's credit, He snagged some crazy ones. Like you go look at that AFC Championship game, he had one of those touchdown catches, and it was like literally the DB had it and he yanked it out his hands and he got both of his feet in before he fell out of bounds. Or maybe it was that game versus the Ravens. I think that's what it was. But yeah, he's had a couple of crazy touchdown catches. He's becoming reliable, especially if you believe in Ryan Tannehill. But yeah, Michael Thomas is definitely worth the trade for. I mean, for a tight end for sure. My primary thing is like if you can flip like wide receivers for running backs.
Yeah.
That's a person who can possibly fill three different slots, either running back one, running back two, or flex. And I'm always about because running backs can run and catch as opposed to what wide receivers can do, which is just catch. Like wide receivers are not getting put in the backfield to run the ball. So that's a person who has the ability to help you on two different fronts in terms of a PPR league. But yeah, running back or tight end sounds like a move between the two of us. Yep. But yeah.
Make sure it's a tight end plus. Make sure it's a 2-for-1. Like if you've got Thomas, Kelsey plus one more. Like make sure, or like Jonnu Smith plus one more. Make sure you're trying to get at least like a bye week replacement for a wide receiver. But I would go one of the top tight ends for Michael Thomas right now. But Ashton, like you said, we're gonna move on to the segment that we do each and every Thursday. Best of the best. This one we had to stretch a little bit because there was nothing really popping out to us on the good side of things, which means we've had a rough week in the sports world. But this one, you and I have got to give a standing ovation. We've got to. I don't think words can explain how fucking well the NBA bubble went. Congratulations to Adam Silver and everybody involved that pulled this off. I mean, how many months were they actually in the bubble? Was it 3, 4 months?
So Malika Andrews was in the bubble for 107 days, a reporter for ESPN. So that was before and after it started. So somewhere in between, somewhere in the space of like 3 months, because that's 90 plus days right there. But the important thing to point out here is that somebody went out there and found a way to do this safely and gave a blueprint to a lot of different sports. And it was interesting to see the ones who chose not to do it and what they're going through right now. To the MLB's credit, they went to the bubble system in the playoffs, which I would imagine a lot of other sports are probably going to have to do, especially if they want to prevent what's going on right now in the NFL, where they got dudes testing positive every day and then finding out they're false positives. And of course, the conspiracy theories that come along with like seeing the false positives pop up after you reported somebody positive and all this kind of jazz like that. Adam Schefter has been working like nonstop because I don't know what time in the morning they're doing these tests, but you wake up and in my group chat, it's this team got the Rona kind of deal. And now they've even gotten it to the point where, and this is of course like raises red flags, even when you just tweet it out on the internet, they send home anybody who has like flu-like symptoms now. Like anybody who, because the test, like they're getting false positives, which means they could be getting false negatives too, right?
Yeah.
So that they sent home Odell Beckham Jr. for like being sick, and now he can't come back until he tests negative twice, and he could be back. I think like tomorrow is like the earliest or something like that. But that's a big blow for the Cleveland Browns. That's a guy that they've been making an effort to get the ball to, in particular. You know what I mean? In multitudes of ways, but the NBA went out there and they said, we're going to lock it down. Of course, they have a lot smaller roster sizes than a lot of other major sports. I think out of the big four sports, they are the smallest roster size overall, especially with baseball, because come September, they expand the rosters out to 40 per team and they have all the personnel and all that kind of jazz like that. But they were able to do it, man. It cost a lot of money. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. But they were able to go off without any hitches, other than the impromptu walkout situation with the Milwaukee Bucks. Other than that, man, they never were in doubt about, and they had a multi-tiered system about like certain people being allowed certain places. Like there were places where only players would go so they could have information on contact tracing. People were wearing the trackers for a good chunk of time, and then after a certain point they didn't have to wear the trackers because everybody was already negative. And even within the bubble, people were wearing masks, and there were dummies out there like, well, everybody inside the bubble tested negative. And I was like, but the personnel who work in the hotels, who work with the packages and all that kind of stuff, still go home every day. So like you don't know like who has it and who doesn't. So they were making an effort to do that, and making an effort to still stay socially distanced, even though we know when they go back on their floors and everything like that, they were still hanging out with each other. They were monitoring who was allowed and who was going in certain rooms. They made events and everything like that. It was just overall, it's not the best thing because we saw it took a mental toll on a lot of players. We saw what happened with Paul George, and a lot of people basically calling him a fucking liar because in the course of the playoffs he fought through like a swing of depression from being like locked inside the bubble for a good chunk of time, and it messes with your head. It does. Like there's no question about, like, you can be locked on a resort, but the fact that you mentally know that like you can't leave the resort no matter how nice the resort is, that still has an effect on you mentally. You could be stuck on a desert island with everything that you need, but the fact that you can't leave the island still brings in fear, brings in doubt, brings in like terrifying concepts into your brain, and to pretend that that's not true is just moronic. Other than that, Martyn, like that's all I really had to say about it. And I mean, shout out to everybody else who made it happen because, um, I mean, it seems like the smartest way to get it done. Because when this whole situation is done, when you look back on this in history, they'll see what happened with all the other sports, and they'll see what happened with the NBA, they'll see what happened with the NHL, they'll see what happened with MLS, they'll see what happened with the NWSL.
Yeah.
And see that they were, they were the ones willing to go out there and do what had to be done to get this money. So
Yeah, $170 million invested by the NBA, Ashton. It was, and the other thing is the product on the court for from start to finish. I mean, we had the eighth seed for I was about to say the NFC West, but the A seed for the Western Conference. I mean, that went down to the wire. That was entertaining.
we had two teams survive a 3-1 deficit to
Yeah,
get to the Western Conference Finals.
yeah.
Like that, and of course, people want to talk about ratings and shit like that. Although they don't want to talk about those streaming numbers. By the way, did you
Yeah,
see that?
yeah. They're
The
fucking
streaming
through the
numbers are
roof.
popping. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, the streaming numbers are popping. Like we all talked about. But yeah, you just talk about like the Denver Nuggets. Like, by the way, the Denver Nuggets have now gone to back-to-back Western Conference Finals.
yeah.
Nobody's really, like, you know what I mean. It even, despite there were like multiple superstars that were missing from the bubble, the number one seed, the best team in the NBA in the regular season, gets bounced by a team led by no superstar in particular.
Yeah.
Just like they got bounced by a mentality. They got
Yep.
bounced by skilled players.
We
So
got trolled by LeBron and the Lakers in Game 1 of 2 of their series where they played like absolute shit and made
you
me
gotta give
made
them hope sometimes.
made me call them out,
Yeah,
and
you
then
gotta give them hope sometimes, and then
yeah.
take it away. That's sick, LeBron. That's a really sick. Hey, we don't kink shame on this show, but that's sick to give people hope and then just take it away and crush it in their face.
We had
Then,
we got to see Jimmy Butler and just the passion that he has for winning and just driving team. Like, I mean, you can ask just about anybody. The rest of the Heat, they're not. Take Jimmy Butler out of there. They probably. Do you think they even make the play? I mean, they're in the East, so maybe. But like,
yeah, no, I mean, you talk about where they came from, right? They were like this fifth seed. At one
yeah,
point, they were the 2 seed, and don't forget this. Wild part, like, go back and look before the bubble at the Heat's record on the road.
mm-hmm.
They were abysmal outside of Miami, and they were the best home team and the worst road team in the NBA last season, in the regular season. So for them to turn that into a trip to the NBA Finals is insane, and
Yeah.
it's a big building block. And to try and pretend that what happened in the bubble wasn't amazing, like the basketball that was played, is just like foolish on like a whole nother level. I get it, the casuals didn't tune in, and the casuals are the ones that make the extra money for the league to make it $1 million or $1 billion organization, right? But the hardcore basketball fans had a good time. I had a good time.
I'll never forget, I'll never forget when the shot of Jimmy Butler just basically like doubled over on
Yeah,
on after, like, was it a rebound or like the ball went out, and you could just tell like he is literally just using the will to win to push through how tired his body is, and he's probably just chilling on drinking some coconuts on an island right now because he is just I don't
hopefully
gotta
he
give
got a haircut, but I doubt he did.
but just shout out to him. Shout out to everybody that made it happen. Best of the best for us is the NBA bubble and the success that they had. Ashton, that means we now have to talk about the worst of the worst. We had a couple of things to choose from this week, but Arthur Blank kind of takes it away with this one with a very idiotic statement coming out and saying interim head coach Raheem Morris, if he goes 11-0 the rest of the season, then he'll be a candidate for the head coach. Ashton, if you have a coach go 11-0 filling in for Dan Quinn, I think anybody with some common sense ought to, he's literally proven himself that he turned an 0-5 team around to go 11-0. I mean, if you go 11-5, you're probably making the playoffs. You may win the NFC South. And you're just going to make him a candidate.
as a matter of fact, so when you look at this, I get, so there's a wrinkle to this one, right? It was worse of the worst because he blatantly came out and said it, and another report said that he like laughed after he said it, and they couldn't tell if like he was being serious about it. It's like, wow, dude, like that's just, you immediately undermine the guy that you just gave the ability to lead your football team. I'm sure that's going to go over well, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so he can't say that he would get the job immediately because he has to interview candidates via the Rooney Rule. Because if you say, okay, so people love to do this all the time, right? Like if you took that and said that about a white coach, that'd be messed up, right? Because then the Rooney Rule would be thrown out the window, and it'd be a disrespect to a lot of other minority coaches. Which, to their credit, like he could go 11-0, and they could possibly find another coach that's better than Raheem Morris. It would be unlikely, but they could find one of the greatest coaches in the history of the NFL, and to close yourself off from that because of the candidate process or whatever he did on the field is, who knows? Anyway, he said that Blank has to interview multiple minority candidates because he also has a GM position to fill. So he has to interview at minimum 3 external minority candidates for all those positions, 1 for GM and 2 for head coach.
The fact that rule is even in place is just,
it says a lot about the people in charge, less about the actual talent available for them to be head coaches. And by the way, it comes up in media suggestions. There's an article you guys should read that was pretty well written, and it's about Raheem Morris, and it was written by the Undefeated about the Rooney Rule changes and how nothing is actually changed, which is kind of true. But anyway, if he goes, by the way, I looked this up. If Raheem Morris were to go 11-0 as head coach of the interim head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, he would have beaten the Saints, the Bucks twice, and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
If he goes 11-0. Oh, on top of that, going like undefeated, like an 11-game win streak in the NFL, absolutely insane. And of course, we can entertain it, even though it is far more likely that they will get a couple of wins. Less likely they will go winless. More likely they will end up somewhere between 11-0 and 0-11.
Yeah.
So that's all I had to say on that. I thought it was worse of the worst for him to like kind of come out and say something like that. And it's just like, yeah, you could have literally just been like, yeah, he's a legit candidate, and he's being assessed. And he actually did at one point say that like his candidacy is determined by what we assess from like this point on. So that'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. Arthur Blank has done a lot for like the state of Georgia and like Atlanta as a whole. If you haven't looked into like the stadium, the Mercedes. What is their stadium called? It's the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Yeah, there's the Mercedes-Benz Stadium and the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. So
Yeah, the Superdome, Doug Dimmadome. Anyway, I was in a Zoom chat last weekend and a dude had the Doug Dimmadome hat on. It was pretty funny. Anyway.
Yeah, worst of the worst is saying just a candidate for going 11.
Just trying to like almost like, by the way, and then setting the standard at something like absolutely absurd because Bill Belichick's not about to go.
Yeah.
Okay. That may be saying a lot. Who could I say? Matt LaFleur is not about to go 11-0 for the rest of the season. There we go.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. About a week ago, Ashton. This is where we talk about something that happened a week ago, and now this week it's a little bit different. This one.
Question, Martyn. Do we know if Bobby Smurder's still in jail?
I think we should just never look that up so that we can keep asking it. But about
if you're in the chat, if you know if Bobby Smurder's in jail, let us know.
Yeah. But
okay.
About a week ago, Ashton, Le'Veon Bell was a running back for the New York Jets. Shit went south, you can say. And now, after liking a bunch of tweets on the Twitter about Adam Gase and how bad of a coach he is.
He was about one step away from posting that GIF from Jimmy Tatro's show, straight up not having a good time, bro. Like, that GIF.
Yeah, after signing a very expensive contract with the Jets a couple of seasons ago and holding out on the Steelers and all that, he has now transitioned that from being cut. They tried to trade him. Nobody like when NFL GMs know that when they hear, oh, we're trying to trade somebody, and you hear everything that has been going on with Bell, like the only person that would make a trade for Le'Veon Bell is probably Bill O'Brien at GM because he doesn't know what the fuck he didn't know what he was doing.
Oh, sorry. Can we give the breakdown of like when you hear about the trade rumors, it means it's not going well?
Yeah.
Because if you hear about it, and by the way, you hearing about it drops like it. You hearing about the trade rumors
Hmm.
is it kills the leverage for the trade
Yeah, it's completely gone.
because it means the team that wants to get rid of him.
Yep.
Like it's one thing for them to say like people are calling about this player. It's a totally different thing of like they're shopping this guy around because
Yep.
once you know every other team, if the other teams in the NFL didn't know beforehand that you were talking to other people, or more than likely if there was like 5 teams you were talking to, like come on. Every person's been in this situation. You're talking to one person, and then the other 4 people that you're talking to find out that you're talking to one person, and then all of a sudden they're just like, well, maybe it's not all that valuable if you're just trying to give it away like that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So now he gets cut by the Jets. The Jets will still be paying him $6 million this season, no matter what. He's now a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. I believe it's a 1-year deal with basically with a bunch of incentives built into it. I didn't see any actual numbers, so I'm guessing like maybe the veteran minimum. Um,
so, other important thing to mention about this as well, he will not be able to practice for probably the next 5 days because he has to test. He has to get tested every day
yeah,
for 5 days and like test negative the whole time. Which, by the way, never mind. I'm not gonna bring it up. I'm
yeah.
done talking
I'm
about
looking at it
COVID.
right now. 5 days of COVID-19 testing before he can join the Chiefs, so he won't be able to play Monday night for the big matchup against the Buffalo Bills. Ashton, when the news broke, I told you I thought it was going to be Miami Dolphins. They ended up being one of the 3 teams he narrowed his choices down: Chiefs, Dolphins, or Bills. I mean, if you're a smart person, are you going to go to the defending Super Bowl champions with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, or are you going to Miami where they're kind of in limbo, or the Bills where, let's be honest, you're going to be playing in the cold more often than
To
anywhere
his
else?
cre- to his credit, by the way, looked up where Le'Veon Bell's from. He's from some random town in Ohio.
Hmm.
Um, when he was holding out from the Steelers, he was in Miami. He was trading in Miami on the beach and using jet skis and such. But they did not. They couldn't sell him on the Southeast Sea. If they had Jimmy Butler and they're on the phone, be like, "I'll see you on Tuesday, dog. We got workouts to do." Anyway, but yeah, Le'Veon Bell last week was a Jet. This week a Chief. I, I mean, you want to talk about a whole different change of mood and like I feel like the second you hang up that phone, you feel like a weight lifted off your
Oh, for
shoulders, right?
sure.
You like,
You're going from the
it's like
you're going from the 0-5 Jets to the 4-1 Chiefs, who are the defending Super Bowl champ. Like,
you're going from more importantly Adam Gase to Andy Reid.
there's not, yeah,
And
it's such a
you're going
180.
from you're going from a snake oil salesman to an actual miracle worker.
Yeah.
Like
But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's gonna feel probably be the most impacted player out of all of this because a lot of people had
and
high hopes
what
for him.
about the
Some people
other
drafted
Damian
him, and
Williams? What about the other
yeah,
Damian
they got a
Williams?
they got a deep running back field, so it's gonna be interesting to see where they put him on the field. But like you just mentioned, Andy Reid, he's gonna know what to do with Le'Veon Bell. I'm excited for him. Um,
Those wide receivers better watch out, man. Sammy Watkins better shape up, figure it out,
yeah,
or he loses his spot. No, I'm just kidding.
so that's going to be interesting to watch how they use them. Some people were putting out stats on why the Chiefs picked them up. Apparently, Clyde Edwards-Helaire has had like the most rushes inside the 5 without scoring a touchdown this season, and so maybe they're just worried that they got a good running back, but he just doesn't know how to punch it in from short. And Le'Veon Bell will just he could
Two.
be the goal line running back.
By the way, saw what happened to Colecchio Simile. Brutal, bro.
Oh yeah, that one I told you it was
One knee,
rough.
you can see one knee go out, and then you see the other knee going out while he's trying to hold his leg up from
Yep,
the one knee going out. It's insane.
yep,
Um, but yeah, their offensive line has been interesting this season. And once again, the Chiefs have played a tough schedule, so like they've played a nasty schedule of guys. And I get it.
yep.
Clyde is small. He's a small king. I'm
He's
sorry, he's a
Maurice
short
Jones-Drew.
king.
He's Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yeah. So, but Mojo, Mojo had the junk in the trunk for in the red zone. Anyway,
Yeah, so Ashton, we
uh,
move on now.
we move along here as
Yep.
Martyn is frozen on my side of the screen. Okay, no, he's not. There we
Hello,
go.
hello. I'm moving
Was there for a
around.
second.
Oh,
Oh,
okay, we back. We
he's
good?
chopping back and forth. This isn't good. I think we're mid internet killing and going out on us.
Uh-oh.
I'm assuming Martyn is saying something back to me in this process. So,
Yeah, I'm trying to talk right now. I'm
oh,
looking at the Twitch feed.
cannot hear Martyn. We know
I'm
what that
frozen
means,
on the
ladies
Twitch
and
side.
gents. Hold on a second here.
Having a little. I think we're both having technical issues because
Oh,
I can't.
is it frozen?
Hello, hello, hello. You want to call me back really quickly?
So yeah, Martyn can't hear me.
I can hear you now, but I don't see
I
myself
can't
moving.
hear him. So Martyn, go ahead, continue with your take for the next segment. For we talking money? Are we talking money? I'm gonna fix it on this end.
Okay, I'm gonna do a quick Thrive promo while we try and fix it, guys. There was no Thursday night football this week, but if there was Thursday night football, you would have been able to get in on the Thrive action. Last week, we had Tom Brady and the Buccaneers going up against Allen Robinson and the Chicago Bears. Hold on, I've just lost Ashton completely, guys. We're just having a little issue here. But go ahead and download Thrive Fantasy on your Google Play or the Apple App Store. Use that code BROKEBOY. When you put $20 down, you'll get $20 back, and it's actually quite fun. I was in the running to be winning a lot of money this past weekend on Sunday. Ashton and I talked about on Tuesday. I jinxed myself by actually sending Ashton what I needed. Are you back, Ashton? Do you see? Can you hear me now? Ashton, can you hear me? I don't. Ashton is. I can see Ashton again, but we can't see him. But anyway, I'm gonna continue to talk about Thrive Fantasy real quickly, guys, because it's so much fun, and sometimes you're on the fence. Sometimes you don't know if you're going to make it in the money or out of the money. But I jinxed myself by texting Ashton and telling him just what I needed in the Dallas Cowboys game and the New York Giants to hit my overs. And unfortunately, Dak got hurt, and then Daniel Jones decided he didn't want to throw any interceptions. So I ended up not making it in the money, but I still had a lot of fun. You can have a lot of fun too on the Thrive Fantasy app. Go ahead and, like I said, download it. Use the code BROKEBOY. When you put $20 down, they'll give you $20 back. They're also doing a lot of other bonus giveaways, so go ahead and check it out. It's a lot of fun, and it's not just a typical DFS app or something like that. It's actually a little bit different. They do props, so you have to bet over and unders instead of picking a player who you think is going to pop off. You're not getting fantasy points every touch. You're hoping that somebody goes over. You're hoping that somebody goes under, and it's a lot of fun to follow. Ashton, are you there? I think Ashton, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, we're back. That was interesting. I think we both had issues. Maybe it was a Skype issue.
It was the internet at work again. The internet undefeated, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, Martyn was just giving you a promo for Thrive Fantasy. I'm assuming.
Yeah, it was a good little Thrive Fantasy promo there. So now that we're back, Ashton, let's talk a little money. We talking money? Are we talking money? This one we mentioned a little bit, I believe, on last Thursday's episode when we were doing the UFC nicknames, which we'll begin to in just a few minutes' time. But it was supposed to happen in December. Now the UFC is getting on board because they want that money. Ashton, we're gonna have Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 2. It was supposed to be, like I said, supposed to be in December for a charity event, not to do with the UFC. But now that Dana White has seen how eager these two guys are to get back in the octagon, they're going to be doing it January 23rd. They still need to sign all the paperwork for it, Ashton. But Connor says that he wants it to be at his buddy Jerry Jones AT&T Stadium. Why is this important? Well, it would make a lot of money for the city of Arlington because I was looking at one article and I'm sorry I forgot to put the source down of where I found this. Um, the city of Arlington right now, Ashton, estimates to be 20% short on their budget for the end of the year. And so obviously January 23rd, you're kicking off 2021, getting some more money in there. Obviously, there would be some fans in the stadium. I mean, some people were hoping full fans back by the start of the new year. Obviously, that's kind of went out the window already. We can all agree that full stadium capacity probably not going to happen in January unless some sort of miracle happens. But any type of sales tax revenue will be good for the city of Arlington. And Ashton, I know you're not the biggest Connor fan, and you might be asking, so what about the
See,
charity?
So Martin, I know Dustin Poirier has like a really popular charity. He donates his kit after every fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's an auction thing that he has people bid on, and a lot of people have been as it's gotten more popular after he beat Dominic Reyes, he got like a really big boost off of it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Dustin Poirier, who I quite frankly don't like a lot either, for other reasons. But Dustin Poirier, and see, my thing is I've never questioned the talent of Conor McGregor, and I've never questioned the talents of Dustin Poirier. I just don't seemingly like what I see about them as people. So, in particular, Conor McGregor. But yeah, man, these two dudes fighting. I'm gonna watch. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna. I mean, hey, I love me a good fight.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I love me a good fight, man, and it should be pretty easy to sell, man. I wonder if Connor's gonna come out here and do the dance. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Got his if
Because
he's got his swagger, if he's gonna be all business. That's gonna be the
yeah,
question.
because the evidence that he like actually likes Dustin is right there, right? Like on Twitter, you can just go look up that tweet that his PR guy tweeted out for him about the charity. Which, by the way, you should definitely go check it out. Mark
Oh, I just lost Ashton again. Ashton, if you can hear me, you're completely gone.
and I both one, it's gonna be a dope fight. I can't wait to see who they put on the undercard because there's a lot of fighters who have been out of commission because of the situation with COVID-19 across the globe. And if it's in Dallas, you know, they're probably bringing it down here to Texas because they're a little loose on the regulations. They just loose enough for Dana White's liking because even Dana White is just like, oh, nah, that Florida stuff, nah, we good.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because that, I mean, this is going to be a great fight. They're probably going to get a ton of pay-per-views out of this. And once again, if there's one league franchise that is dominated quarantine, it is the UFC.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Ashton, if it's a short drive up to Arlington for me from Austin to see Conor McGregor fight live, and I have the opportunity to do it, you damn right. I'm fucking signing up, trying to get me some tickets. Sign me up. I will take the risk to get to see Conor McGregor fight live. But one of the other things is when I first saw this and like the UFC and Dana White announced it, like we're still waiting on them to sign everything. But so what happens to the charity fight in December? Well, Conor already announced that no matter like basically now that it's going to be a UFC sanctioned fight. I believe it might not even be a pay per view. It might be an ESPN Plus fight because for promotion wise to get people into ESPN Plus, but that would be totally opposite of what Conor has done. He's the Floyd Mayweather of UFC. He wants that money each and every time he fights. He's gonna still donate $500,000 to Poirier's charity, which is called the Good Fight Foundation. So that you, Connor trying to get in the good graces of some people, you know. Some of the people that don't really like him for out of the ring stuff. He's saying, "Look, I'm
I
still
mean,
going to
hey,
donate the money."
no, my thing is just like you can. So Mark, we know this, man. Like you can be like a jerk and still do good things. Like
Oh yeah,
people are not black and white about life. You can be you can be a jerk. You can be a bad person and still do good things. Like we know this. Dudes who own corporations who literally are trying to pinch and squeeze every single dollar and dime to get away from their employees and get into their pocketbooks donate millions of dollars every single year to charities and political events and everything like that. They make sure that they put that money out there into the world. And why that is, you can look that up on your own fruition or whatever. But at the end of the day, is money going to a charity that's trying to do good in the world? Like
yeah,
that's not surprising to me whatsoever. We all got to get out of that mindset of like, oh man, I don't like this person, so everything that they do is bad. And that's just not how life works, bro. Like,
yeah.
sorry to break it to you. But yeah, other than that, Martin, shout out to Conor McGregor for doing that, man, putting the money where his mouth is and getting the fight done. One, using the internet stuff as leverage to get the people on his side to
Yep.
go out here and get Dana to force him to sign him up for a fight, because if there's anything that Conor's been trying to do is get in there and fight somebody, and you can't take that away from him.
Well, I don't know if you saw this as well. Somebody, it might have actually been Poirier that said it. McGregor's only doing this for because Poirier is a stand-up fighter, basically, or like I think that's what
Yeah,
somebody was. He's a stand-up fighter, so that he can get a little practice in before the Manny fight. He wants to go back to boxing and fight Pacquiao in the ring. McGregor does, and so he
it's
wants to
funny
fight
because like
Poirier.
some people, so it's funny to me because some people would think that fight would be close. Manny Pacquiao's one of the greatest boxers of all time. And he
Yeah,
may be old as hell, but he ain't old enough to let Conor McGregor get the best of him.
yeah, and
So
everyone was quick to forget. Just, I mean, I'm a McGregor fan, but and Floyd kind of danced around the ring for a little bit, but he gave him the 1-2 piece at the
I mean,
end of
he
the
could have
day.
stood. He could have stood right in front of him, and he wouldn't
Yeah,
have touched him.
yeah.
Like
I still would have liked
he
to see them do it in the octagon though.
yeah, but when you're Floyd Money Mayweather, you
Yeah,
don't like when it comes to negotiations. It's not a negotiation. It's either you take this fight or I'm going somewhere else. I don't need this money. You need the money.
yep.
So, and Floyd's one of those dudes where it's like you should be saying thank you that I even walked in the room.
Yep.
So, yeah, moving on that
Looking
one.
forward
What
to
else
it
you
no
got?
matter what. I'll take any Connor fight I can get. Ashton, while you go get this media suggestion, we got one media suggestion here. I'm gonna go grab a water. I'm getting a little.
So media suggestions here. I was recently reading a couple of articles on The Athletic, which is a good subscription service. If you got some extra money, it's $60 for an entire year, and you can get info and breakdowns and articles and Q&As and all this kind of stuff with some of the best writers in the game right now. And for the most part, there's a couple of guys that are dedicated to doing like film breakdown and film study of different teams across the entire NFL, and they'll explain just like general concepts, not necessarily breaking down footage from week to week and everything like that. My media suggestion is go to blitzology.com. It is a website dedicated to explaining defensive schemes in the NFL. You should try it. I mean, like if you want to be a better football fan, or like if you're an aspiring coach, that's information that you can use to become a better coach. So check it out, blitzology.com, the entire website. I clicked on it when I was looking at a explanation of cover one cross, which I feel like I have a pretty good grasp of and how that works now, but I'm not going to waste your time here on the show explaining it. It's just cover one, except the robber is the the safety that's on the opposite side of the field, and the cross is the safety coming across the field and taking up any crosser or person that runs a crossing route over the middle of the field, because that's the vulnerable side of a cover one defense. Anyway, there you go. That's a
Yep,
little
that little
right
inside
there.
look there. Yeah, Blitzology. Was it blitzology.com? I'm
Yeah,
gonna go check that out.
I bookmarked it. That's how good
Oh,
it was. The
nice.
first, like, I
Hell yeah.
looked at it for like 5 minutes and I was like, I need to look at this a lot
Look at it some
more.
more. Yeah. All right, Ashton. We got four things of what's going on as we start to wrap up the show here. Four more things to talk about. We've got the NBA Finals, the MLB playoffs, NFL Week 6. We're going to make our picks. And then, of course, the UFC nicknames for UFC Fight Island 6, Ortega versus the Korean Zombie. So let's kick it off with probably the most exciting of all these four, the Lakers and the Heat in the NBA Finals. Los Angeles, what is it? Title number 17 now for LA. LeBron.
Tied him for the most all time with the
Yep.
Boston Celtics.
LeBron did it. Anthony Davis became the first player ever to win an NBA final championship, an Olympic gold medal, a college an NCAA championship, and uh, a FIBA World Championship gold as well. First player ever. I thought that was a little weird, especially with like the 1990s teams that we had. I mean, how did
Well,
Jordan not?
the FIBA World Cup didn't exist
Oh, okay, you're right.
when they
Okay,
played. Yeah,
okay, so that makes sense. But anyway, so Anthony Davis in a little bit of territory of his own for now, but LeBron continuing that march. Was was it 4-6 now in his 10 NBA Finals?
yeah. So once again, like we don't do it. Don't do it.
I mean, I don't have to say it. It's MJ, but
Don't do
I'm
it.
not gonna. We're not
Don't.
gonna get into the
As
debate.
soon as you say it, the conversation's over. Just letting you know, we're gonna start. As soon as you say it, we're moving on to the Major League Baseball playoffs.
All right.
So,
Well, if there's anything else you'd like to say before I say it out loud, what were your? I mean, we've already talked about the NBA and the bubble, but what were some of your takeaways from the actual finals itself?
so I went back, and one of my favorite things to do, maybe if you're a sports fan, you get into this habit and you just do it naturally as well. I go look at the roster and look at some of the dudes that have won a championship now, or have won another championship, because some dudes you forget about. But some of these dudes, man, they've been around for so long in the NBA that you know their story. You remember them when they were like the best player on another team like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And you remember them when they struggled the most, when they were like the front page news for doing something stupid, or you remember some iconic moment about their career. And some guys, you're like happy, like you're happy that they finally got one. You're like, man, they've been grinding for a long time, man, and they finally got one. They finally deserve it. And I looked at, I'm sure a lot of dudes, there's a very specific group of people who are very happy that Alex Caruso is now
Hell
an
yeah.
NBA champion.
Hell yeah.
Uh,
The GOAT, Alex Green. You want to talk about GOATs in the
Martyn is a part
conversation?
of that group of people.
I just like the jokes, man, because he doesn't look anything. I mean, he's balding at
He's
20
literally a
something. Like,
balding. He's literally a balding white guy who can dunk higher than a lot of dudes in the NBA and has like crazy amounts of explosive power in his legs. But yeah, Danny Green is now a 3-time NBA champion. He's won all 3 of his titles with 3 different teams. He won one with the Spurs when he was still like a crazy good 3-point shooter. He won one with the Raptors when he was like a middling / decent 3-point shooter. And then he won one with the Lakers, man. And for whatever everybody has to say about Danny Green right now, and I know there's a lot of slander out there on the internet, you say 3-time champion when you address him. You understand me? You say 3-time when you address Danny Green. Other stuff, other people looking at Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard finally got a championship, and of course the joke on Twitter was Dwight Howard finally won a title in Orlando.
Oh, I didn't actually see that one. That's actually a good one.
And you know what the true ironic part is? The person who stopped Dwight Howard from winning his championship in Orlando.
Wasn't it LeBron?
Kobe Bryant.
Oh, it was Kobe?
Kobe Bryant. Yeah, with the Lakers. So,
oh, yeah, you're right.
That was
way back when he was still Superman.
Yep. And then eventually he ended up joining the Lakers, and then all of LA hated him because of like how he played and all kinds of stuff like that. When he played, that was after he went to the Rockets. Yeah, the first time when he went with the Rockets, it was a whole big thing. Dwight Howard, man, he's been on a journey.
Yeah, he really has.
And to his credit, all the things that he has done wrong, mostly on him. Like mostly on him. Like,
so you mentioned like the rosters and everything. It came out like immediately afterwards that the Heat are basically going to do everything they can to get Giannis to come down south. It'll be interesting.
Him and every other team.
Yeah, of course, every other team. But there's more tension right now on the Heat, and I mean, if you want, it's Eric Spoelstra or whoever the coach is for the Bucks. Give me Eric Spoelstra 10 out of 10 times. You mentioned the rosters as well, Ashton. There's already a couple of Lakers that are opting out of their contracts.
Yeah.
Contavious Caldwell-Pope, Rajon Rondo.
So
Anthony Davis is on the verge
for different reasons. Rajon is like for real going to free agency. Contavious has to take a pay cut because he got paid like $11 million for this season.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't look like it's like real free agency for him, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so.
It's just a restructuring, but he has to opt out of the contract no matter what. Anthony Davis, I'd be surprised if he leaves. Anthony
Davis he's opting out of his contract so he can get a new max deal.
Yeah,
it's that simple.
Yeah,
it's that simple.
From the Heat side of things, I mentioned Giannis, Bam, Jimmy Butler back next season. They could really, I mean, they're. I don't know what to really make of the Heat. I didn't think they would make it to the finals anyways. I mean, then they end up beating the Celtics. Everyone thinks the Celtics are obviously they'll be 1 year older and they've got that young core and they'll be back. And you and I already talked about it in our text messages, Ashton. Next season's NBA season, we're already excited for. We got the Warriors coming back. You've got the sort of a new look Clippers with Ty Lue now at the helm. We're gonna have the Nets in the East with KD and Kyrie and was it Steve Nash? I was gonna say quarterback, but that head coach. I think next year is gonna be.
According to Kyrie, they don't really need a coach, but
yeah, but I think next season is gonna be fucking awesome for the NBA. Especially with how well they did in the bubble. It's gonna be interesting to see. I don't think they'll do another. They might have to do another bubble with shit that's going on, but they're gonna try and kind of do what like the NFL and the MLB have done and travel around while also trying their best to be safe. But I mean, if you have to bubble again, I don't see why they have. The only problem I think they would have with the bubble again is like player contracts and all of that, like a holdout, and would the players hold out to get more money from the TV deals and stuff like that? Because obviously that's the only way they're going to be making money if they bubble again. So they got some question marks, but I'm excited as hell for next NBA season.
Yeah, next season's going to be pretty dope. Going back to the LA Lakers roster, one guy, a couple of guys really. JaVale McGee, by the way, has the same amount of championships as Larry Bird. Another guy, Martyn, I think close to a lot of people's hearts, and that's why J.R. Smith has gone through a journey of like his presence in the lexicon of people. By the way, inspired an entire team to go shirtless after they won the championship because if you're gonna celebrate, baby, you never know when you're gonna get back. You never know when you're gonna
Exactly.
get another one. You might as well live it up. Iconic photo of Rajon Rondo sitting on the court surrounded by confetti with his hat in his hand, shirt off, Lakers shorts on with the leggings and everything, and his son with his arm on his shoulder drinking out of the champagne bottle, baby.
Yep.
Like if that doesn't, man, that's I mean, sad to say that photo's gonna live forever. And of course, like I'm not upset about a kid taking a swig of champagne.
It was probably some like
It was
apple. Just do what the PR people were gonna say. It's just
sparkling
sparkling
grape
water.
juice.
Yeah, it's just sparkling stuff. But I like that you picked up Rajon Rondo's kid because I was actually watching SVP after the finals, and he was
Yeah,
interviewing LeBron and like everything. Like, there's still confetti. There's still a couple of people out there, but Rajon Rondo's kid was just basically playing like pickup basketball by himself, and he was draining the shots that he was putting up on the NBA goal. Like, I'm making the call right now in 2020. Watch out for Rajon Rondo's kid in 10 years or however many years it is before he's going to be NBA eligible. But man, that was it was just funny to watch, and I was expecting SVP to like
it's very
to
casually in the
mention it
background, like
because he's
just
literally
swishing
just
it.
like swishing everything he puts up. I mean, he had a couple of ones that hit the rim and went out, but literally like this is an NBA height rim, and this kid is like however old Rajon, like it was really cool to watch in the background. And shout out to little Braun. Um, he's got another championship. Um,
Oh, sorry. Before you ruin the conversation with where you're going, I heard what you were trying to do. J.R. Smith, shout out to him. Another title, especially another title. What a couple years removed from like one of the biggest mistakes in finals history.
yeah,
Other guys, Markieff Morris, one of the Morris brothers. By the way, if you're one of those people who sent him a death threat on the photo of him at his mother's grave, or like sent him a death threat in some other way, shape, or form, I I implore you to remember the person that you're talking to because
yeah.
Markeith
He don't play
and
no
his brother,
games.
yeah, Markeith and his brother will pull up. They are
Yeah,
also 6'8".
yeah,
If you don't know, look up the story about Markeith Morris and Markeith and Marcus Morris and their mom's ex-boyfriend. Look that story up about how they ran him down.
yeah,
They pulled up in a Phantom, beat his ass, and rolled off.
yep.
Straight up. They do not care. Especially why would they care about your life? Why would they care? Anyway,
Yeah, just really quickly, Ashton, to get the conversation so we can go on to the MLB. Give me MJ 6-0 in the finals over LeBron 4-6 in the finals. There's still
and
no.
now we're done.
Yeah, here's the thing. They're two totally different players and do two totally different things. LeBron is a goat at what he does. Michael was a goat at what he does. But if it comes down to it, and you're asking me to pick between two players, one of them is 6-0 in the finals that he went to over 4-6. I'm taking the guy at 6-0. It is what it is. We'll move on to the MLB playoffs that are now almost into the World Series. Ashton, the Astros. Are we gonna jinx it by actually talking about it? They're currently down 3-2. Game 6 is going on. I believe started a little earlier, about halfway through us recording today's episode on October 16th. It's a Friday, right, Ashton? We're having a good little time here on the Friday episode as I was unable to record yesterday, Ashton. I went on a date, so yeah, we had to push it back to
Lame,
today. What's
lame,
that?
lame.
Elaine. Well, here's the thing.
Sports,
Marissa was
sports,
saying, well, why don't you and Ashton just do it after our date? And I was like, I don't know if he wants to do two super late podcasts in 1 week. So
sports.
I wasn't gonna hit you up at 11:30. But yeah, it was a good time last night. Go ahead and check me out on Instagram to see where we were at Martyn Pape on the Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter at Martyn Pape _. That's MartynPape. Go ahead and follow Ashton at FB_playbook. You can see his weird takes like why LeBron is the greatest of all time and all of those different things. But the MLB playoffs, Ashton, I really haven't been paying it.
All I have to say is hoes mad.
I mean, I'm not taking anything away from LeBron. I would just personally take Michael Jordan. I mean, it is what it is. Even in a one-on-one, you're going to take LeBron. That's not the question. It's the question of who's the greatest of all time? It's Michael
Oh,
Jordan.
I'm talking about the Major League Baseball playoffs.
Oh yeah,
In
just
in regards to the Astros, Ho's
yeah.
still mad.
Ho's still
Um,
mad. Yeah, the Dodgers and Braves are playing on the NLC side of things. Apparently the Dodgers had a 11-run first inning in one of their games, but they're
yeah,
still
record setting inning for
yeah,
sure.
but they're still
Amazing.
losing the series 3-1 right now against the Braves. So the only reason I wanted to bring up the playoffs anyways, Ashton, is because you and I have been talking about ratings quite a bit, and there's some people out there that get ratings boners whenever things are down. Here's the thing:
Shout out to Clay Travis.
if the Rays and Braves play in the MLB World Series, expect the ratings
I'll
people
find out
to
who won
jump.
the World Series in a couple of weeks
They will
via
jump
Sports Center.
all over that. They will literally be salivating at the mouth to put out the ratings because the Rays and Tampa Bay and Atlanta Braves are in the World Series. But hopefully we get some Astros in there. They they were struggling the first couple of games. I haven't really watched any of it to be honest, Ashton. But that's my take. The ratings people are
Martin,
gonna be salivating if they make if
side note: Tampa Bay one win away from going to the World Series.
yeah.
In that situation, they will be 4 wins away from possibly winning the World Series, and that would be the second championship that Tampa Bay has won this year.
Yeah, I saw somebody put out an article like, "Is Tampa Bay America's sports town right now?" And I mean, you can't argue it if they get two of the titles. But the thing is, nobody's watching, so there
If nobody watches you win the Stanley Cup,
does it even matter?
you,
Did you even
does
win
it,
it? Yeah,
did you
exactly,
even
Ashton.
win it?
Like
I'm
it's
just
one.
kidding. No,
It's
shout out to the Lightning.
yeah,
Yesterday's game was really exciting. It was game 4 of the no, it was game 5. Game 5 of the series for the Astros and the Tampa Bay Rays, and it came down to a Carlos Correa bomb.
yeah.
And all I thought about is I saw that ball fly out of the stadium, and I was like, oh, man, y'all going to hate him when he goes to the press conference tonight, man. Oh, my God. But, yeah, they're still cooking it up, man. They're still out here doing their thing. And they broke out of a slump yesterday. They had multiple home runs yesterday, and basically the only way to score in yesterday's game was to hit it out of the park. Everybody's playing that quality of defense, but
Yeah.
that's as far as my MLB takes are going, man. It was a good game yesterday. Watching the Rays, the Dodgers, they look like they're charging towards history, man. Like they look like they're charging towards it. Whoever meets them in the World Series,
Well,
by the
they're down
way,
3-1. That's the thing. Like that's the weird thing. They
yeah,
had this
that's how good
historic.
the Braves are. That's how
Yeah.
good the Braves are, right?
Like
Yeah.
it's crazy that like they have this historic inning, and yet they're literally on the brink of being eliminated. Let's move on, Ashton, to week
I'm just saying,
6.
I just want to say one more thing.
What's up?
When the Astros play the Dodgers in the World Series, I just I want y'all to send the Astros thank you cards. Like everybody in Major League Baseball, if y'all really trying to make this money, y'all should be sending the Astros thank you cards.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they went out here and did the damn thing. Because I'm saying, man, you win the World Series in 2017, and a couple years later, you back in the World Series, a year removed from like having your GM and your manager taken away from you. Everybody keeping 110,000% eyes on you to prevent you from cheating, and all they can do is watch you kick that. All they can do is watch you swing bombs out into the stands over there.
Yeah.
Gosh, man, I love sports so much. I love.
All right, Ashton. NFL Week 6 action. Let's break it down. We've got let's see, we got 4 teams on a bye entering this week, as long as everything with the COVID tests goes to plan or is negative for the games that got pushed back. Most importantly, the Kansas City Buffalo game. I think there was another one that they all have to test negative for it to not get pushed back. But let's go into it as if all these games are happening. Of course, you and I are both Houston fans, so we like to kick it off with the Houston Texans each and every week. Unfortunately, Ashton, before we actually get into it, there's only I think there's only 5 games this week where both teams are over 500. It's not a good
Yeah.
week for the matchups, and also only 2 late afternoon games, and one of them involves the New York Jets.
So sorry for all the New York fans out there, because that means 2 of your time slots got taken up by actual New York teams.
Yeah.
But the other thing to point out here is the Houston Texans in I'm sorry, the under 500, for as bad as those records look, all time high for teams that are trying to score points.
Yeah.
Everybody everybody getting into the end zone. So at least at least people are losing with style, unless you're the Jets or the Giants.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But actually, only 4 games as of right now involve both teams being over 500. But Ashton, let's get right into it. The Houston Texans heading up to Nashville to take on the Tennessee Titans, who on Tuesday took care of the Bills in quite easy fashion. Houston, of course, kind of been a roller coaster this year, and the roller coaster only just now, after 5 weeks, starting to go up. It's one of those straight drops roller coasters, and then now we're kind of rising back up. How do you see this one going up in Nashville?
Yeah, so okay, important thing to take away from this, and I mentioned it on Tuesday. Everything that the Titans do really well are the worst possible situation for the Texans defense. On offense, I'm seeing opportunities, right? I see opportunities. Malcolm Butler, very talented cornerback. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. Best attribute for the Houston Texans is not there's not a singular wide receiver that you can key on and be like, we need to shut this guy down to shut down the Texans offense. And never has at any point during this season that been an advantage. The Tennessee Titans defense has had a lot of really good appearances this season. They are one of the worst pass rushing teams in the NFL, but they are also going up against one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. So that could weigh out in their favor. I think when it's all said and done, that one turnover that the Texans are guaranteed to give up because they've had a turnover every single game of the season. And just the pure fact of like their defense isn't explosive in terms of like forcing yards for loss this season. It comes down to like what the offenses are going to be able to do, man. And really, when you look at it, the Tennessee Titans offense is clicking right now. So it's going to take the best performance of the entire season from the Texans defensive line for them to be able to go out there and give the Texans a chance to win. Because if it turns into a shootout, I dare say the Texans could come out and do some damage, man. But we've seen this year Ryan Tannehill can tear it up, man. These guys are huge, and the secondary for the Texans is already so averse to contact. It's insane. And the Titans are all about hitting people. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. Fuck that. I'm not picking the Titans.
All
I'll take the Texans. Yeah.
right, Ashton. So we're kind of been keeping our eyes on some of the injuries that all of the teams across the league have been suffering so far this year. The Texans, probably the biggest name, obviously lost one linebacker this year, and we're gonna have to. We've got a couple, or actually only one other linebacker on the injury list right now. Jordan Akins is questionable. He's actually got an ankle and a concussion, or he's got 2 separate injuries that he's battling
exactly.
back from. Ankle and concussion, so we'll have to see about that one. The Titans, they had quite a few players not practice yesterday, but as I'm looking right now on ESPN's updated injury list, they only have one person questionable, and it's a defensive tackle, Daquan Jones. So maybe the players that sat out yesterday were just resting from playing on Tuesday. You and I like to look at the opponents that they might have played the same throughout their schedule. The Titans and Texans have both played the Vikings and Jaguars so far. We know the Texans beat the Jaguars last week. They lost to the Vikings the week before. The Titans have beat both teams, however, by a combined score of only 4 points. Ashton, they're having fun down in Houston right now since Romeo Crennel has taken over. And you convinced me that they are still in the running to win the AFC South. And just like last week, the only way to win the AFC South right now is to win the division. I ain't ever picking the Titans to beat the Texans. Give me the fucking Houston Texans, even though we both know what's going to happen in that one. We move on. And it's like you said, the strength of the Tennessee Titans is the worst part of the Houston Texans. And they got to go up against Derrick Henry. Good fucking luck. Maybe he'll be tired after running over the Bills last week. Let's move on. Next on the list, the Cincinnati Bengals at 1-3-1, coming off a terrible performance last week, going up against the Indianapolis Colts, who Ashton, they finally got figured out. They finally went up against a decent team on their schedule, the Cleveland Browns, and they lost, and it wasn't really that close.
That's the low end of what we perceive as decent in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
Says all we need to know. That, by the way, they're the primary reason why I believe that the AFC South is still very winnable.
Yeah. They got figured out. They don't really have the number one defense in the NFL. They got away with playing the Jags, Vikings, Jets, and Bears in the first couple of weeks. So, um, yeah, the Browns were the first tough team they played, and they lost to them by what was it, 32-23. Of course, people will say the Bears are foreign. What about the Bears? I mean, you and I both agree the Browns will probably beat the Bears. So um, it really comes down to which Bengals team shows up for me, Ashton. Up until last week against the Ravens, you and I were convinced that they were kind of somewhat improving a little bit, and then they took about 10 steps backwards against the Ravens. Um,
And honestly, the reason you saw such a massive step backwards and why it looked so bad, once again, Lamar Jackson did not have like the greatest game on the face of the planet. It was like his lowest completion percentage since he joined the NFL. But the fact of the matter is that the Bengals have probably the worst offensive line in the NFL. Joe Burrow's number one in sacks surrendered in the NFL, so his offensive line is just like doing that poorly. And they were going up against the heaviest blitz team in the NFL. I'm sorry, the third heaviest blitz team in the league. The Ravens exist to send pressure, and the Bengals exist to not stop it.
yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty much what it came down to, man. What do you got in this one, Martin?
As much as I don't like to pick it, I think the step back that the Bengals took last week hurts them. Um, and so I'm going to pick the Colts in this one.
Yeah, I take the Colts just off the logic of they are a better team
Yeah.
structurally from top to bottom, and that's even with some of their low end talent not
Hmm.
performing all that well. But I think they're a better team overall, and I'd be interested to see if the Bengals can pull this one off because this is a winnable game for them.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure. And it also would help the Texans in the long run. But better offensive line is the Colts. Better defensive line is the Colts, especially with the Bengals. I read somewhere they're one of their starting defensive ends now out for the season. So yeah, just give me the Colts on this one. But if Cincinnati comes out and wins, or gets another tie, it wouldn't surprise me. Now, next game on the list here, Ashton, we've got the 0-5 Atlanta Falcons with a new head, or actually a new interim head coach, going up against the Minnesota Vikings, who gave the Seattle Seahawks your Super Bowl pick a little run for their money last week. It took some heroics from Russell Wilson to beat Minnesota. Both teams come in with a combined record of 1-9. How do you see this one playing out?
looking at this one, like top to bottom, man, this is once again a winnable game for either one of these teams. But the Minnesota Vikings, despite missing Dalvin Cook, I like Alexander Madison a lot. I've seen him make some really good plays throughout the course of his career. But this is a game now because Madison is the starter. More pressure is going to be put on the Minnesota Vikings. But the fact of the matter is, they're going up against one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Not only are they one of the worst defenses in the NFL, they're actually hurt more consistently. They've got some good pass rushers, and I always talk about Deion Jones on this podcast, but the secondary has been on a tough ride so far. I expect the Minnesota Vikings to come out here and get this win, man. I really do. And there's something to be said about the mentality of the Falcons so far. They may not be hanging. They may not be able to hang. That's what it comes down to, man. Like if this game is a close one, um, it'll be interesting because the way that the Falcons win this one is if they turn it into a shootout, which of course they can do at any given moment.
No.
So I'm over here really wondering, like, if they're able to do that, do the Vikings have a chance? This could also very well easily be the first win of the season for the Falcons and give some of the Falcons hope. But I'm leaning a little bit more on the intelligence of the Minnesota Vikings and them showing not only that they're talented, but they can execute at a high level, which is what they did on Sunday Night Football. I'm picking the
ESPN
Vikings.
ESPN's reporting Dalvin Cook officially out for
Yeah.
Sunday's game with that groin injury. So that one makes me lean a little bit more towards I don't see when the Texans lost Bill O'Brien, you could tell there was more like you could tell. I don't think the players had quit on Dan Quinn. I just think they were just finding ways to lose. To be honest, I mean, giving up that stupid onside kick to the Cowboys, just not really playing well on defense. Which I mean, to be honest, that's what Dan Quinn was supposed to be known for. So let's see what Raheem Morris can go with. If Dalvin Cook was playing, I would hammer the Vikings. Without Dalvin Cook, however, and I believe they're without one of their starting. They've got a cornerback out. Chris Boyd is out. Drew Samaya at guard is out for the Vikings, and Kate.
Hey, actually, so that Drew Samaya thing is actually a bonus for the Vikings because he's their worst offensive
He's the
lineman, and
worst.
honestly,
Okay.
he's one of the worst offensive linemen in the NFL. So that may actually be a blessing in disguise. Hopefully, Drew is going to be okay as soon as possible. But this is an opportunity for the Vikings to try and move on from a guy who they have admittedly said is most useful because he hits people hard on run blocking.
Give me the. I
So
think. I think the Falcons are gonna. This is gonna be their first win of the season. They're gonna find a way how to not lose this game for me. Give me the Falcons. We move on to the next one on the list. Denver taking on New England. This is attempt number 3 to play this game. Ashton. Denver coming in 1-3. New England 2-2. I need to see. Have they
is this
cleared?
the part where we mentioned that the Patriots didn't practice today?
Well, that too. But have they cleared Cam Newton yet? I haven't read
Yes,
anywhere.
Cam Newton is supposed to play.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, he cleared and he's getting tested to confirm that he can come to practice, and I think he could be back Saturday. Right? I think
Uh,
that's what it is.
well, it looks like they canceled practice today because they had another positive COVID test.
Yes. So that being said, looking at what the Denver Broncos have been up to, man, of course their season has just been up in the air in terms of the quarterback position. They're patiently waiting for Drew Lock to return from his injury, but you look at what's going to happen for him on offense, man. Like Melvin Gordon, after basically cementing that he was going to be the number one running back on that Thursday night football game, is out in foreseeably out. Don't know if it's like official or anything, but he got caught. He got arrested, not arrested, but he got charged with a DUI on Tuesday. So he probably is not going to be available. Also, the NFL is more than likely going to suspend him for at least 3 games for like the code of conduct violation. But
And
that's neither here nor there.
really quickly, Adam Schefter, while we started recording this a couple minutes not too long ago, tweeted out that Melvin Gordon has also come down with an illness totally unrelated to COVID and the situation from Tuesday night. But
It's bad
so
for Melvin Gordon right now. It's bad
yeah,
times.
so you got Philip Lindsay, who has been out for most of the season with an injury, finally gets his chance to get those reps back in his favor, Ashton. But if this game is played, have the Patriots practiced at all? I mean, we can kind of throw that out though because the Titans proved that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, they've practiced, especially since the Patriots are. See, the difference is that the Patriots go out and do what they always do, no matter what, right? And they make adjustments based on the opponent, but more so than any other team in the NFL, the Patriots like customize a game plan every single week for their opponent.
Yeah.
So, but their biggest advantage is they're going up against a bad team that is getting worse by the day.
Yeah.
Right. They're going up against a bad football team that's struggling with like not only injuries, but on top of that, like missing starters, like multiple starters. So.
Yeah, Drew Lock is expected to play as long as he doesn't have any soreness in his shoulder on Sunday during the warmups. I don't, even though the Titans proved that practice is they didn't really need to practice. I'd feel, I don't know. I'm gonna pick the Patriots no matter anyways, just because, like you just mentioned, the Broncos are just struggling, and I've said since week 1 with Drew Lock, Denver, this is one of those seasons where you just get the best draft pick you can. And if that means tank, go ahead and tank. Just get your best draft pick possible. Next up, next up, oh, I just clicked on something I shouldn't have. Ashton, are you still there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Hello?
We're here. Sorry, I don't know what the fuck I just clicked on. Anyway, we move on. Washington football team taking on the New York Giants. 2 teams underperforming. Another game where they're combined 1-9 coming into this one. Ashton, is this a get right game for either of them, or is this just no more? This is just a bad football game in general.
So there's 2 things at play here, right? Bad offensive line versus really good defensive line. Could be bad day, as it always. Which, by the way, at a certain point, Daniel Jones has just got to get accustomed to being constantly under pressure, right?
Yeah.
Like he's just like, yeah, I take 4 or 5 sacks a game, and most of them aren't my fault. Other side of this, Kyle Allen is starting for Washington, supposedly. So I feel like this is the Giants' time. I'll take the Giants on this one, man. I don't like what they look like under Kyle Allen. Did not look good. He had some moments where he looked good. Like I saw he had that rushing touchdown, and he actually had a couple of drives that pieced together really well for him. But fact of the matter is, man, Washington is in a weird spot right now. So Kyle Allen being 100% healthy despite not coming back into the game on Sunday is interesting to me.
Yeah.
But I'll take the Giants just based off of, they went out against one of the worst defenses in the NFL and they found multiple ways to get points. We talked about how Daniel Jones threw 0 touchdown passes last week and they scored 34 points. So I'll take them in this matchup.
So weird.
Yeah.
Washington, they keep getting hurt. They got a couple players out already. They moved cornerback to the IR. They've got 2 offensive linemen out. The Giants, they just lost Lorenzo Carter. But like you said, it's going to come down to who wins the battle of the trenches, and I think Washington actually wins that battle. So I'm going to take the football team to beat the Giants.
There you go, football team. You got somebody who actually believes in you.
Yep. So yeah, it's well, you and I both believed in him. You and I said that we were gonna. Was that only if Dwayne Haskins was at quarterback?
Yes.
Okay, I got you.
I'm off that. That. 2 weeks ago, by the way, I convinced Martyn to get on the train for the football team to make the playoffs, just because that's how bad the NFC East is. But that was conditional.
Yeah.
When they were playing the best quarterback that they have on their roster.
Yeah. All right. Next up, here we go. Baltimore, the Ravens going up against Philadelphia. Ashton, if you want to give me about 10 minutes so I can go through the Philadelphia Eagles injury list real quick. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 7 players officially listed as out, and that's just the players that have gotten hurt this past week. That doesn't include the other people that got hurt weeks before.
Being listed out on a Friday is not good.
No. So out.
That means you were not even close to being eligible to play in this game. One of those guys is Lane Johnson, right?
Yep. Lane Johnson out. Matt Pryor out. Marcus Epps out. Deshaun Jackson out. Alshon Jeffrey out. Avonte Maddox out. Duke Riley out. Darius Slay questionable.
Do I even need?
This is one of the
Baltimore Ravens for 500, please.
Yeah, this isn't I've mentioned it a few times, Ashton. There's some games where NFL teams, especially this season, just want to get into the stadium and get out with as little injuries as fucking possible. And this one is going to be one of those games for the Ravens. Don't be surprised if we see RG3 by mid-second quarter, dude, because they don't want to risk Lamar Jackson. They don't want to risk their running backs. This might be a big J.K. Dobbins game, just so that they can kind of preserve the rest of the guys.
Don't you speak that ill will on Mark Ingram. Don't you speak that ill will on Mark Ingram. But other thing to point out in this matchup, man, the Philadelphia Eagles, of course, once again, we talk about Daniel Jones, at a certain point, he's just got to accept that he's just going to be under pressure at all times, because he was under pressure 60% of his dropbacks last week. Aldon Smith and Dexter Lawrence had the 2 highest grade, or 2 of the top 5 highest graded pass rusher grades last week. But moving on.
Well, really quickly, speaking of Thrive Fantasy, it would be interesting if they put a prop on how many over/under sacks Carson Wentz suffers against the Ravens, and if they set it at 6, I'd be willing to bet the over.
There you go, Thrive Fantasy. The ultimate disrespect to the offensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah. So this one just comes down to the fact the Baltimore defense is nasty, man, especially when that pressure is able to get home, and without Lane Johnson, and let's be for real, with a flurry of other dudes that are trying to figure out their way in terms of the system, the pressure is on, baby. On like Donkey Kong. They are about to get out here and go buck wild. And once again, this is another opportunity. This is a good defense this is a good defensive line that the Baltimore offense is going to have to go up against. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see what they're able to do run wise, if they're going to go with what they did last week versus the Bengals, which was try and work on developing the pass game while the game is going on in a non-threatening type situation, right?
Yeah.
So that I feel like that's what we're going with here, man. And Martyn, let's just entertain for a second the Eagles win this one.
Hey, they're going back to being tied at the top of the NFC.
Yeah, so if the Eagles win this one, it says more about the Ravens than the Eagles, right? The Eagles, people still doubting heavily, but the Baltimore Ravens, they start to get Well, now they're losing games that they shouldn't be losing. At first they were losing games that they should be losing. Now they're not losing games, and now they're losing games to the Eagles, who had one win coming into it, and all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff like that. And it starts the whole flurry of questions about Lamar Jackson all over again. But yeah, moving on, man. That should be an interesting game in terms of, like, once again, the trench battle, because that plays heavily,
Yep.
especially in the situation of Carson Wentz, man, because they need to keep him they need to keep him as safe as possible. And on top of that, when you're under pressure, you're more likely to throw interceptions. And I don't know if you noticed or not, Carson Wentz got a lot of interceptions this season.
Yeah.
He had 7 in the first 4 games of the season. So
Yep. So this next game, Ashton, we finally get to talk about two teams above 500 in this matchup, and is this
and
a
of course, you would naturally expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to be there.
Yep.
And we also naturally expect the Cleveland Browns to be the team that we're talking about right now.
Oh, for sure. This one is how real are the Cleveland Browns this season? You're going up against, personally, my pick for the Super Bowl with Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're on a bit of a winning streak since they lost to the Ravens in the first week of the season. That's Cleveland is. They also,
Blitzburg.
yeah, they've actually got quite a long list of injuries as well, Ashton. They've got only 4 players out. But got quite a few players questionable, including Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham, and Baker Mayfield. All of them
Yeah,
questionable.
Baker's got like this weird thing going on with, thought it was his shoulder, but they have it listed as chest, right?
Yeah, chest and ribs.
Yeah, he has like a rib thing that was like messing with him at the end of that game last week. Somebody hit him on a release of a throw, and then he got sacked. Or no, he didn't get sacked. Somebody fell on him after he handed the ball off, and he kind of like collapsed over for a little bit. So that'll be interesting to see, especially if a certain doctor's in the near vicinity of him, how they get ready.
Keep him
For
away
this
from the
one.
Chargers.
Yeah, so this one comes down once again, man. The Pittsburgh Steelers blitz more often than they drop back into coverage, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the perfect game for them to this is the kind of game that they live for against a guy who is questionable. Even some could even argue, like, in his own mind, like, questions his ability in his own mind, right? And I would never say that, because Baker Mayfield's come so long to get to this point. He could be 0-16 and he can still believe that he can win a Super Bowl. So
True.
Baker Mayfield in a situation, man, you talk about Odell Beckham Jr. not being able to practice. Jarvis Landry's got some kind of injury as well, but this should be a good matchup, because if blitzing does anything, it opens up opportunities when you're, as a coach, a play caller, time it right for you to break big runs. And it could become into like a coin flip type situation, instead of what happens with the Steelers. Most of the time, they know exactly what you're going to do, and they dial up the right blitz for it, and they in your ass before you even finish the dropbacks.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to watch, no doubt about that. And on top of that, the weird thing about the Steelers is beyond the just absolute immense amount of pressure they put on quarterbacks, the pass defense is not that great, because they're in like true man-to-man coverage, which of course is super difficult to hold in the NFL. And Odell Beckham Jr. in true one-on-ones, I take Odell Beckham Jr. even if it's Minkah Fitzpatrick that's on it. You know what, man? Give me the Browns.
All right. Ashton is going for the 4-1 Browns. Ashton, here's another prop that Thrive Fantasy can throw out this week. How many times are we going to see the Myles Garrett helmet hit on top of Mason Rudolph during this production? How many times do you think they're going to mention it? How many times are they going to show it? How many different interviews are they going to do about it?
Like, you love to talk about like little graphics that they make. I hope that they have like a cartoon, like a CGI version of Myles Garrett swinging his helmet at the camera to be like a swipe on the camera. You know, like they do the power swipe in PowerPoint. Yeah. It's like him swinging his helmet at the camera and it swipes to commercial. Yeah, that's the level that we're going to be talking about here. Also, don't forget Deontay Johnson, who is out in this game, by the way, which is a huge problem. Chase Claypool moving up the ladder. Moving on up.
Also out for the Steelers.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, don't forget that one time Deontay Johnson was literally bleeding from his ear at the end of this game last year.
Yeah, Deontay Johnson officially out. Also ruled out for this game is David DeCastro. So he, as everybody knows, the Steelers have a decent offensive line, but they're going up against Myles Garrett and the rest of the Browns, and not having your starting guard kind of an issue. However, actually,
You're feeling it.
no, I'm going the
You
Steelers.
see,
I thought
yeah,
about it. Seeing DeCastro out and seeing Johnson out, I thought about it. But we still got Juju. We've still got Chase Claypool. We've still got James Washington. You got Big Ben throwing it. You got a healthy Big Ben and injured, ribbed Cleveland Browns. Uh, I was just trying to think who's the backup for. Didn't we talk about this? Oh yeah, it's Case Keenum. Case Keenum is a backup, so we might have a Case Keenum sighting if
Wiley vet sighting.
it.
Wiley vet sighting.
Yeah, no, give me the Steelers. But just I think if Baker Mayfield was 100% healthy, I may have went with the Browns. But the fact that he's got a rib and a chest injury, I'm a little worried, especially as a quarterback. Like that can't be good. Next on the list, Ashton, is we've got 2 games in a row here where we've got above 500 teams going at each other, but one of them, I think you and I kind of agree, is a little bit of a fraud. The Chicago Bears 4-1 going up against the
Wow.
Carolina Panthers at 3-2. We were talking with Scriv earlier in the chat about Mike Davis and Run CMC. Christian McCaffrey, he's still out for this one, still on IR, so it's going to be Mike Davis again. But Teddy Bridgewater, is this his toughest test yet?
Nothing is too tough for Teddy Bridgewater, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you know this or not. The Carolina Panthers run the NFC South. I don't care what you I don't care what you heard. I'm telling you what's real. Um, Fact of the matter is, this matchup is interesting because it is hands down the best defense he's played the entire season, and once again, this is another opportunity for a Panthers defense that we have questioned mightily coming into this season to go out here and prove that they got the juice against a guy who is highly erratic in terms of like his consistency of play in Nick Foles. So coming off a Thursday night win versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is one thing, but going out here and beating what is a whole nother one because man, it just feels like the Panthers got something cooking, man.
Yep.
But it's hard for me personally. It's hard for me to go against a high quality defense like we see out of the Chicago Bears on a regular basis. And then I saw Khalil Mack look like he playing for the Raiders again, and I didn't need to see that, man, because now it's got me like, oh man, they got the combos up, right? They got Akeem Hicks, they got Khalil Mack doing this thing, and if Robert Quinn picks it up a little bit, they'll be a lot better. But yeah, it's it's a tough call on this one. This should be a good game to watch, by the way.
Yep.
Between these two teams, but God damn it, I'll take the Panthers.
Okay.
I'll take the Panthers, man. I don't the inconsistency of Nick Foles versus the consistency of Teddy Bridgewater is what sells me on the Panthers, despite the immense amount of talent that they showed on Thursday Night Football.
Ashton, we've got a bit of a revenge game coming up with this matchup. Mike Davis, if you remember, played for the Chicago Bears last year, and they cut him. Now, he's in a nice little situation with the Carolina Panthers. Got a good offensive line in front of him. It's a revenge game. The Bears, their wins have come against the Lions, Giants, Falcons, and Buccaneers. In that Buccaneers game, I still don't know how they won. I mean, we all do. It's number 4 because apparently Tom Brady forgot what down it was. But the fact that they only beat the Bucs by 1, it was a weird game on Thursday night. They lost to the Colts. The Panthers, on the other hand, do they have okay, so they have one common opponent so far, or 2 common opponents. The Falcons and Buccaneers. Panthers lost to the Buccaneers, beat the Falcons. The Bears have beat both teams. Man. I don't know why I'm going to do this, but I think I'm going to take the Bears because I can't go against my theories of common opponents. And if one is 1-1 and the other is 2-0, Nick Foles somehow but here's the thing. I'm such a Teddy Bridgewater. Each and every game this season has kind of made me more and more of a fan of him. And Matt Rule, it's like you said. I think the Panthers have kind of figured something out. They're on a 3-game winning streak. You know what?
Yeah,
I said the Bears. I'm
still,
switching it.
But let's be for real, Martin. Going into this game, the Bears are the favorite.
Yeah, which doesn't really make any sense. I think I'm gonna switch it. I'm going the
We're both
Panthers
good.
with this.
We're on the
Panthers.
we're on the keep pounding hashtag keep
Yes.
pounding guys.
Yeah.
Which
Both of
by the
us.
way, like I don't know who approved that like I don't know who approved that hashtag, but there's definitely been some Panthers fans who have had sex and just said like keep
Keep
pounding
pounding. Yeah. That
afterwards.
that
Yeah.
one. That
Like
one's.
there's
Yeah. Well, actually,
some guy in a bar some guy in a bar has gotten laid off that. Like I or some lady in a bar has gotten laid off that. I almost guarantee it.
apparently one of the Panthers players got put on the COVID list today. Um,
Oh, here, that's fun.
another so that's something to look out for. But um, yeah, I just think the Panthers, even though the Bears are 4-1, the Panthers have they not played better so far this season? They've definitely I feel like they've been the better team.
They've been in some close games and they come out with the win.
Yeah, where
Like that, and then we saw them go up against the Falcons and tune them up
yeah.
in a divisional matchup.
Yeah, I've liked more what I've seen from Carolina this year than I have Chicago. Even though when it comes to a common opponent, Chicago has done better against the same teams. So we move along after both picking the Panthers. Detroit, they're taking on Jacksonville. And this is one of those games where like when the NFL schedulers get together, they're like,
This is a loser leave town game, by the way.
yeah, exactly. This is just like a they have to meet once every 4 years. What week?
Pardon my take, and I'm pretty sure they mentioned. I haven't listened to Pardon My Take today. I'm going to listen to it on the way to my girlfriend's house.
Yeah.
But
Loser
I'm
leaves
pretty
town.
sure they said loser leaves town. This is
Yeah.
by the way, these are two guys who it's like inexplicable as to how they still have their jobs. But Doug Marrone deserves his job far more than Matt Patricia does. Matt Patricia, like Martin, if they go in here and lose this game to the Jags, like they gotta fire him, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm picking the Lions for just that reason. Matt Patricia is going to get his guys revved up and ready to go and play for him. And they're playing the fucking Jags. Come on. The Jags are one of the worst teams in the NFL. They have yet to figure out that they're actually fucking tanking this season. Looking at the injury list, Desmond Trufant has been ruled out. Adrian Peterson is questionable. But I'm still gonna take I'm going with the Detroit. I'm trying to find Jacksonville. Jacksonville doesn't have anybody ruled out yet, but they have a lot of people questionable. Dakota Allen, Avery Jones, and Josh Allen all questionable.
Shout out Dakota Allen, a superstar of the now old reality TV show Last Chance U.
Yep. But
Texas Tech.
The Lions beat the Cardinals, so. And if it comes to two bad teams and one of them has beat my Cardinals this year, I'm going to pick that team that beat the Cardinals. Give me the Lions in this one. Ashton, are you going Lions as well?
Oh, man. Gardner Minshew's wild. Is it going to be the good kind of wild or the bad kind of wild this week?
Who knows?
They're going up to Detroit.
No, it's in Jacksonville. In Jacksonville.
Oh, it's in. Give me the Jags, baby.
All right.
I'll take them.
You believe in Duval County?
I believe in Gardner Minshew more than I believe in anybody on that team. But the fact of the matter is what the Lions really bring. I saw them play really well against the Saints, which isn't saying all that much. But the fact of the matter is that they have some moments when they can look good. It just doesn't come consistently enough. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, I feel like, have had more consistent moments. They've had more longer sustained drives. They've been in closer games. They've been able to figure out how to work their way out of bad positions consistently.
Yep.
And by the way, you think about it in comparison, like the Jacksonville Jaguars played the Texans last week, and if you think the Texans are bad, you know the Detroit Lions are way worse. Just saying.
Okay.
That's my theory on that, man. But yeah, neither one of those teams gets like crazy amounts of pressure, so Matthew Stafford's probably gonna have a decent day out there. But I think when it comes down to like being able to move the ball on a regular basis, I'll take the Jags all day, man.
Now we move on to the
five more.
Late afternoon games. We can really get through this next one quickly, Ashton. The New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins.
Baby.
There's nothing to say. Adam Gase needs to be fired as soon as possible. The Miami Dolphins continue to be the best 2-3 team in the NFL. Fitzmagic. Who knows which one, if it's going to be Fitzmagic or Fitztragic showing up.
But I think he's got a couple rabbits in the hat.
Oh, for sure. Especially the Jets.
He's got a couple of them.
He's going like
you know what I think is gonna happen? He's gonna wave the wand over the hat, and then one of the Jets is gonna go walk over and put the rabbit in the hat and let him pull it out. I think that's the kind of game we're dealing with right now. They're gonna find a rabbit, put it in the hat, and then be like, "All right, now pull the rabbit out of the hat."
The only reason I would be concerned for the Miami Dolphins is Kyle Van Noy and Shaq Lawson are both questionable for this one, Ashton.
Ooh, that's a
Um,
lot of pressure that's not going to be there.
that's what I'm saying. That's the only, but they're questionable. They're not out. They're still likely to play. The Miami Dolphins are 99% likely to win this game. So we move on to America's game of the week, Ashton. Green Bay Packers 4-0. Aaron Rodgers coming off a bye, going up against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Um, this one could get interesting because we still don't know how good Green Bay is, even though they're undefeated.
I can tell you this right now: they're better than Tampa Bay.
Okay.
I'll take that. They do play in one of the worst divisions in the NFL. There's no question about that whatsoever. The NFC North is pretty garbage this season, but I think the difference maker is going to be in this one is that one, the Packers have shown themselves to be more clutch in a lot of situations, but having Devontae Adams back is going to go a long way. But they are one of the deadliest and most balanced offenses in the NFL, and that's the difference maker between what we've been able to see in recent years. Of course, this one's going to come down to defense, right? Like the Packers defense is the most out of the two defenses. The most questions you have about are for the Green Bay Packers defense, and of course, the biggest question starts to become not can you get to Tom Brady, but can you cover Mike Evans consistently? And sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, to your point, they got a couple of players on the injury list that are questionable. Rashawn Gary, Kevin King, Zadarius Smith, and Montravius Adams, all questionable, all defensive players who, if they're not on the field, Tom Brady can have a little, especially Zadarius Smith. If he's not out there, I mean,
And Rashawn Gary's pretty talented too when he gets his
yep.
opportunities. But like you said, Zadarius Smith is the dude that everybody looks to out of this. Even among the Smith brothers, Zadarius Smith is the one that's shown up and shown out more consistently. But it's been it's just gonna be it should be a good game. But based off of what I saw them do versus the Bears, man, like that team's not ready to hang with the Packers.
Yeah.
I'll take Green Bay all day.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. The fact that Tampa Bay somehow found a way to lose to the Chicago Bears, even though we both think they're the better team,
And
shows that
lost
there might be a
ugly.
little
It wasn't even
inconsistent.
like it
Yeah, it was.
lost ugly, Martin. Like not even like one of those back and forth type situations. It was like you were banking on a game winning drive with like a minute and change to go,
Yeah.
and like anyway, whatever.
hmm
It
Packers.
was
We don't know
yeah,
how
it was
good the
bad.
Packers are, but for some reason we both know that the Buccaneers are just they just don't have the consistency for a Tom Brady led team so far this year, and that's what raises some questions for me. Give me the
And
Packers as well.
this will be a huge win for them. This will be a huge pivotal win for them
Yep.
because we all keep talking about like how they're this and they're that and they're this and they're that and they haven't exactly like cemented. The only thing that they cemented is that Mike Evans is really good at catching the ball. Ronald Jones II is really good at running the ball. What we haven't seen is the consistency, right? Like
Yep.
we've seen them in these last 3 game stints right here. They've played a bad opponent, middling opponent, or above average opponent, and now they're playing one of the elites. They've been slowly working their way up the ladder. They beat the bad opponent, the quote unquote bad opponent, the Panthers. They lost to the middling or slightly above average opponent in the Bears, and now they're going up against the Packers, and you expect them to do something they haven't done in the last 2 games that we've seen, or the last couple of games that we've seen out of them.
Here's the other thing. We keep kind of hearing like Brady and Bruce Arians are still trying to like figure out one another, like how what each of them likes to do and like where they can meet in common grounds. How much longer are we gonna? We're 6 weeks into the season now. Like you got to get that shit figured out. Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur, they figured that out last season, so they're kind of all systems
They're
go
rolling.
right now.
They're rolling, and
Yeah.
they're coming off a bye, man. So like
Yep.
they're coming off live action,
Fresh.
man.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll
Yep.
see.
Now the Sunday night game, Ashton, it's going to be out west between the 4-1 Los Angeles Rams and the 2-3 San Francisco 49ers. What we saw out of the 49ers last week, excuse me, was very fucking poor. The fact that they gave up 40 plus points to Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Miami Dolphins offense, who we think is the weaker side of the offensive defense for Miami. Now you got the Rams rolling into town. The Rams are kind of one of the hottest teams right now in the NFL with the way they got things rolling. Yeah, they lost to the Bills, but it was only by 3 on that fluke play. I mean, the Giants game, you can kind of say, like, what the fuck happened there? But the rest of their games, I mean, they beat the Cowboys, they've beat the Eagles pretty solidly, and Washington, they did what they had to do when you play a bad team, and that is just beat them pretty badly. Whereas the 49ers, is Jimmy G gonna fucking show up, or is he gonna be benched in the second half?
And to
Yeah,
Jimmy G's credit, man, like that all stems from him trying to come back too early from an injury,
yep,
which of course means that like we're 5 games into the season and you're pressing hard. Like you're pressing a starting quarterback to come back. And I get it, man. Like you want your starter back as soon as possible, but there's no way they didn't go out there knowing that his throwing motion was going to be compromised somehow and not have an understanding of like what are we going to do to mitigate that. And it didn't seem like there was a lot that was done. And then again, once again, I'm not a football genius like Kyle Shanahan is, right? So you look at it and you're just kind of like, yo, like they didn't do anything to put Jimmy G in a position to be able to succeed, knowing that Jimmy G on his best day is slightly above average, right? Or like above average. Very, very good is the best day for Jimmy G. And you weren't going to get that against a team that, like, quite frankly, like Dolphins are not good. You know what I mean? Like the Dolphins aren't like a great team. The Dolphins aren't making the playoffs. That was an opportunity for them to go out there and get that win. Their injuries are too heavy, in particular at the secondary position. And a lot of people have been like, everybody focuses on Jimmy G, but the number of corners that they have hurt is absurd.
yeah,
They're signing dudes off the practice squad and putting them in at second and third string. So they're getting reps out there on the field. And no offense to the practice squad players, they just weren't. They were like literally dudes that were on other teams a couple of weeks ago, and they're signing them off other people's practice squad teams.
yeah.
So,
Ashton, I don't know if you can, if you've got, for those watching Twitch.tv right now, or
oh yeah, I'm
also on
very
the
much
YouTube,
seeing it.
are you seeing? Are you seeing
It's
this?
it's a battle. It's a battle between the sun and my ring light. It's
Yeah,
hitting hard, man.
I
Like,
can't. It's on my screen, like where I have the Twitch layout for me seeing like what's being put out on air. I can't even see myself right now, so I don't even know. All I could see is this bright. Like look at this, dude. It's so
it
bad.
looks like I'm doing a podcast with the sun.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all because Mittens. I don't know if you can. I can try and pan the camera down. Mittens has decided to do a little sunbathing right now, so she's got the blinds open, and it's just coming in like we're in the middle of summer right now. So I'll see you. I'll see you guys later once Mittens decides to move. But we'll continue on for right now. And just like you can't see me,
Once
I
again,
can't
Martyn,
see.
that is your apartment. You pay rent. Mittens does not. Make him move.
Mittens. No, dude, she is out cold. Like I can see her. Like she is sleeping, enjoying it.
Use some water. Throw it at her.
Hey, cat, move. No, but I'm gonna make a joke
Great
about
content.
it, Ashton.
Great content.
Oh yeah, for sure, Ashton. Just like you can't see me right now, I can't see the San Francisco 49ers winning this game. The Los Angeles Rams might beat them by 30. We move on to the first of the two Monday night games, and this one's probably the game of the week, if we're being honest. Up there with, oh, there she goes. She moved a little bit. There we go. I might be back. Can you see me? I might be back
Martyn's
just a
back,
little bit.
guys.
There we go. Thanks, Mittens. She heard us and decided to move just a little bit about 5 minutes after. Anyways, so yeah, this one up there with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Cleveland Browns game as the game of the week. The Chiefs coming off a very, very tough loss to say they didn't look too good in that loss to the Las Vegas Raiders. Buffalo Bills, of course, both teams coming in here not looking too good in their last week's matchup as they fell to the Tennessee Titans pretty badly. Which way do you see this one going? Mahomes versus Allen, which is some people's dreams of the best two quarterbacks in the league in years to come, because for some reason people are all in on Josh Allen. How do you see this one going? Yeah, I make the same face too, dude. It doesn't make any sense. When I read that on Twitter, I was like, this person's drunk.
Y'all do anything for the hype train, man. God damn. But yeah, this matchup should be interesting. Once again, the biggest thing that I've questioned so far in this season for the Bills has been their defense, man. Like they've taken a step back from being the elite level defense that we expected. Ironically enough, if they had the defense they've had like the last 5 years, Martyn, combined with the offense that they have this year, they'd be the best team in the NFL. Yep. But they don't. So now they find themselves in a situation where, Josh Allen has the pressure of constantly putting up points to be able to match up against their opponents and everything like that. Kansas City, of course, is a fast-paced team. They're coming off a loss. Buffalo's coming off a loss. You can take a lot more from what the Raiders were able to do. Raiders did against the Kansas City Chiefs and learn from it. Do you think that it came down to the fact of the matter is they were able to get pressure when they needed to versus the Kansas City Chiefs, which is impressive to say because there's not like a ton of elite level NFL talent on the defensive line for the Raiders, right? Um, the other thing that came out of that situation is the coverage downfield was like immaculate. They basically had the only time that they had opportunities where dudes were open is when they were running towards the sideline and the window was so small that it takes the best quarterback in the NFL in Patrick Mahomes to be able to hit that window. And I don't think the Bills are going to be able to replicate that, man. I know they love to run that man-to-man defense when it's all said and done, but you can't do that against the Kansas City Chiefs on a consistent basis and get away with it, especially if you're not going to get pressure up front.
Yep.
Do I believe that Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen can go drive for drive to get touchdowns and win? I don't think Josh Allen can hang, man.
True. You literally took the words out of my mouth. That was going to be my lead. If you're giving
which by the way, subsequently means that we agree in some way, shape, or form. Derek Carr is better than Josh Allen.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think the Raiders' victory was more on the defense than it was on Derek Carr. But I'm looking at the injury report here, Ashton. I don't see Tre'Davious White on here. I do see Tremaine Edmonds, who's still questionable, so they at least get one of their corners back that they didn't have against the Tennessee Titans. Kansas City, they have officially put
right. Tremaine's the brother that plays corner, not the linebacker one.
Yeah.
Right. Like the linebacker plays for the Cardinals.
The Tre'Davious White.
No.
Tremaine Edmonds.
Yeah. Tremaine Edmonds is the corner. His brother is Terrell Edmonds, I think.
Tremaine Edmonds is the linebacker.
God damn it.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to get them all in line, especially because all three of them are actually pretty good. Sammy Watkins, he's doubtful with a hamstring. Tell me if you're surprised on that one, Ashton. But Kelechi, and you're gonna have to Osemele, the guard.
Kelechi Osemele, man.
Osemele. You told me how to say it on Tuesday, and I knew I was gonna butcher it. He's officially been put on IR. He's gonna be out for the season.
Yeah, and once again, Martyn, did you what pathway do you see this come? Like, what pathway do you see the Bills going out here winning this game?
The only way I see them winning is if the Kansas City Chiefs have their worst offensive performance of the year. Because the Bills can put up 30 points, right? Like that's what Josh Allen does. He pads his stats and puts up 30 points, except when he plays the Titans. Whereas the Chiefs can put up 30 points in their sleep. So.
And remember, good chunk of the interception, right? And then the multiple drops that killed drives from the Bills is what kind of did them in versus the Titans. Do you think the drops go back to normal the following week? I think so. And hopefully there's a little bit of an assessment of how certain players were utilized, like Cole Beasley, who didn't get a lot of shine out there on the field, even though he is one of Josh Allen's most trusted targets as a receiver. So, yeah, man, it sounds like we're both going Chiefs, which is not a surprise at all. This one should be
a good game, though. I think it might be a good game
to watch. Yeah,
it'll depend on which of the Bills team turns up. Is it going to be the team we saw against the Titans that just, one thing we have kind of given credit to Josh Allen in the offense this year is they've been consistent, but they were so inconsistent against the Titans. The Chiefs, they could have their B team offense out there and hang with the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion. So give me the Chiefs in this one. We got one more game here, Ashton, before we get into the UFC nickname picks. And this one, also a good game to watch.
Two of the worst defenses in the NFL.
Oh, don't say that about my Cardinals. They're not one of the worst defenses. But anyway, the real Monday Night Football game, Arizona heading into Dallas. That means Kyler Murray coming home, where he won his state championships with Allen, where he went 60-0 as a quarterback as a high school in the state of Texas, going up against the Dallas Cowboys with the worst, by far. I think the Jets might have a better defense than the Dallas Cowboys do at this point. Also, no Dakota Prescott at quarterback, so it's going to be a lot of Zeke. I believe he could have 30 to 40 carries in this game. If he doesn't, then Mike McCarthy doesn't really know what the fuck he's doing on offense, because if you're going to put the ball in Andy Dalton's hands over Zeke, I've got some questions for you. Even if you do have three pretty good wide receivers, the Arizona Cardinals, however, have the best wide receiver in the league and have one of the better, if not the best, dual threat quarterback right now this season. At
Julio Jones
quarterback,
plays for the Cardinals now.
nah, Julio. Come on, man. You can't tell me Julio Jones is the best receiver this season. DeAndre Hopkins is the best. He's on a historic pace.
My man, my
Julio
man,
Jones
my
is on a
man,
historic pace for missing
my
games for
man.
hamstring injuries.
Julio Jones is got the LeBron treatment, where it's like
Oh,
when
okay.
you say best receiver in the league, you mean actually second best. Because Julio Jones is like, why would I even question whether or not Julio Jones is the best wide receiver in the NFL? You know, you're talking
Well,
about the second best.
Arizona's got quite a few injured defense, or nobody out as of yet, but a couple of questionables. Devin Kennard questionable, Rashard Lawrence questionable, and then two other linebackers are questionable as well. Also, an offensive lineman, J.R. Sweezy's questionable for the Arizona Cardinals.
J.R.
Dallas,
Sweezy, a legend,
yeah,
been around for a
Dallas,
long time.
yeah, Dallas is gonna obviously be without Dak, and then Tristan Hill. He has been officially ruled out after tearing his ACL. So two big injuries there for the Cowboys on either side of the ball. Are you really going to be picking Andy Dalton to beat Kyler Murray in AT&T Stadium?
Wow,
Yeah.
it's come to this.
Oh my God. Please don't tell me you're picking Andy Dalton.
I've never stooped this low,
You're
and I
wild.
never thought this moment would come.
You're wild. You're wild.
I'll take the shitty Arizona Cardinals.
That's what I fucking thought. I thought you were going with the Cowboys on that one, dude. Fuck Dallas, respectfully. Hopefully, Dak Prescott. He put out I don't know if you saw it, Ashton. He put out a video.
Yeah. You did for Dak, right? The
Yeah,
video
that
of all the people who have reached out to him. Which, by the way, like we can't say it enough, man. Can't wait for you to come back next season, Dak.
yeah. This one, I'm. Do I really have to say who I'm picking this one? I'm going Cardinals. And Ashton, I know for anybody that does the ESPN pick 'em out there, you have to put in a score for the Monday Night Football game.
I never do that.
Oh, you never do that? Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm putting in right now. I'm typing it as I speak. It's going to be 45-24 Arizona Cardinals. People are going to be tuning out of this one because it's going to be over in 3/4 of play. That if you're telling me you're putting Kyler Murray back in the stadium where he made his fucking name in high school, in basically the town, not the he didn't go to Arlington, he went to Allen, but in this part of Texas where he made his name, like he's coming home for a reason, and I don't see any unless Zeke runs the ball 40 times for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. I don't see how the Cowboys win this game because that means they've kept the Arizona Cardinals off the field with the time of possession. That's the only way I can see Dallas winning this game. However, I'm all in on the Cardinals. I think they've got one of the best offenses. If they show up and play to their strengths, Arizona should not have any problems with Dallas. Give me the Cardinals, and those are our NFL picks for Week 6, Ashton. We now move on. One more segment left in the show. We're making good time. Let's get out of here before 3 hours, and let's do some UFC nickname picks for quite an interesting card. If you guys tuned in last week, I was telling you this is a card, this next week's card, even though last week, are we going to talk about that knockout that we had real quick?
Yeah, so Martyn had 5 picks and they all lost last week, and
Yeah.
one of them lost in easily the most exciting fashion we've ever seen in the history of the in history in the UFC. It was
It was
I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Wow. You saw it. You saw it. If you live in the world, you saw that knockout. It was on Sports Center and everything like that. But yeah, by the way, the guy who got knocked out has like 3 college degrees and he's like an accountant. Was an accountant, but he's got a killer MMA record. He actually won his last fight. We mentioned he won versus Coconut Bombs, which is one of the show favorites. But
Joaquin
yeah,
Buckley is the guy's name that everybody we forgot, even though he had. Did you see? So like, by the time the main event came around, the tweet UFC put out of the knockout already surpassed, like
yeah,
became their most retweeted tweet ever, and it
yeah.
was like only a couple hours afterwards. That's how crazy the spinning. Are we call what did they officially call it? A spinning back
So
kick?
so yeah, he caught it was it should be a roundhouse kick, but he caught it was he caught a kick, of course. That's like a defensive tactic that you can use and work your way towards your opponent. You catch their kick and then you go for strikes up top, and then you sweep the leg. If you know anything about mixed martial arts, that's a famous term.
Sweep the
Sweep the leg.
leg.
Yeah, you sweep the leg, and then you get side control or whatever you want, either top control if you get down there fast enough. But it's a effective tactic to prevent people from hitting you with a full force kick. What most people don't expect is the other foot to hit you square in the side of your head.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So yeah.
Yeah, great. And I remember when we were breaking down last week's fight when I went 0-5 in. I specifically remember us saying like this is one of those cards that's just kind of filler in between like two of the bigger events, and it turned out to be probably the best card so far at Fight Island in this fight, like the second go around at Fight Island. Like that card from top to bottom was exciting. I think I enjoyed every single fight. I mean, the main event might have been the worst fucking fight.
Yeah, once again, the undercard's good, and then the main event's not as fantastic. But we move along. We talk about it is UFC Fight Night 180, ladies and gentlemen. Would have been dope if he got that kick on Fight Night 180. But anyway, we here on the Broke Boy Sports Podcast, we could regale you with our immense amount of talent when it comes to breaking down MMA fights. But instead, we make it fun for you and for us by picking winners for UFC bouts based off how dope their nicknames are. Because let's be honest, like, you don't have a dope nickname, that's like 50% of the fight.
Exactly. Like you can't go in. Some fighters can go in there without any nickname because they're kind of their history, their whatever. Like Buckley doesn't need a nickname anymore because he's literally got that highlight tape on it. Like he doesn't need a nickname. But some of these fighters, you got to have something to back it up. You got to put a little fear into your opponent. And so we like to pick nicknames. 0-5 for the first time in what 6 months that we've been doing this, Ashton.
Yeah.
Just a bad night. It's a
bounce back.
This is going to be a bounce back. Yeah, exactly.
We start off here with a familiar name to some people if you pay attention to MMA, Saeed Nurmagomedov. I checked on this. It's just friends with Khabib, not actually.
Yeah, it's a popular last name for. He's also from Dagestan, so even if Mark Striegel has the best nickname ever, we're not picking him. So
we do not pick him. By the way, Mark Striegel, if you did not remember, he does have a dope ass nickname.
Yeah, I know.
So
I'm looking it up right now.
His opponent, Saeed Nurmagomedov, who by the way has lost all of his fights via decision. His last fight he had a loss, but before that he was on a 7-fight win streak. Mark Striegel, on the other hand, his name is Mark Mugen Striegel, and Mugen is I don't even know what language it is.
It's Japanese for limitless.
For limitless or infinite.
Yeah.
So Mark Limitless Striegel. And this is his UFC debut was canceled last month. He had COVID-19. He was asymptomatic. Oh, no, sorry. I wrote in my notes in big bold letters, he had symptoms. So he had actual symptoms of COVID-19. Before that, and I think he was in the Philippines League. He had a 3-fight win streak going. He is a Sambo gold medalist. He has won 14 out of his 18 wins in MMA have been via submission.
Yeah.
So that's his game. That's his steez. That's his thing. But yeah, Mark also basically picked up his entire life and moved to Vegas so that he could get on a bunch of these quarantine cards. So he's out here. He's going all in on it.
Smart man.
Yeah. We move on to fight number 2. Maximus Grishin.
Okay. Not bad.
30-8, and he's been fighting for 12 years, Martin. His last fight was against a guy who's very familiar. He actually fought last week. Marcin Tybura.
Yeah.
Who's got a couple of good knockouts so far. He
beat Ben Rothwell too in a decision.
Yeah, he beat Big Ben Rothwell. 7-1-2. In his last 10 fights, he's got 15 knockouts. Half of his wins have been via TKO.
Damn.
So moving on, I actually looked up how to say this guy's name. Let me click on his. His opponent. His name is Gatumurad Antugulov.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I put that work in.
Do you know where he's from, Ashton?
He is from Dagestan.
Yep. So Maximus, you're off the list as well. We can't pick the two fighters with nicknames. We can't pick because they're going against what we never pick against, and that's the Dagestanians. Even though I will be picking against Khabib in the Justin fight, but that is neither here nor there.
Straight hating. All right, you gonna learn. You gonna learn. I mean, you want to lose some money betting against Khabib, you do that. The only thing that can stop Khabib is Khabib, and of course that is his dietary choices sometimes. But moving on, notes on him. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, by the way. So he's 20-7, and those last, like, he was literally like 20-4 at one point, and then lost 3 in a row. He's a sambo fighter as well, so pretty impressive. Moving on to the next bout here, we got this is a good name here. Fares Smile Killer Zayem. He's French.
He's
a French fighter.
That's a really good one.
This is his second UFC fight ever. He lost his debut. He's a kickboxer. He's 7-2 in kickboxing. I'm sorry, his background is kickboxing. He's 7-3 in his last 10 fights. And he took this fight on short notice. So shout out to him getting out there, getting that money.
Hell yeah.
He's on Bulgarian top team, not American top team, Bulgarian top team. So his opponent is a man by the name of Jamie Malarkey.
He could have had some fun with that last name, like Jamie No Malarkey or something, like Jamie No Nonsense Malarkey. That one would have been a good one.
Jamie ain't taking none
yeah.
of your malarkey. He's 12-3. He's got a KO versus Volkanovski. Pretty good fighter. That's his most prominent win. 12-3 so far. He's got 8 TKOs. Does not have a nickname, so we'll move on. Sorry, let me turn the page on my notes. That's right, people. That's how much I love you guys. I actually took notes. Who's this next guy? Oh, here we go. Next guy we got up here. This is it's a little windy, but it'll work. John the Welsh Wrecking Machine Phillips.
Okay.
He is hold on, let me see here. He is overall 22-10. Out of those 22 wins, Martin, 20 of them are TKOs.
Ooh. Damn.
Last 10 fights, he's 5-5. In his last 5, he is 1-4. So, catching a rough streak there. His last fight was also against. Yeah.
Man, I kind of liked that nickname before you told me he was 1-4.
But also his last fight was versus Kazmachiev.
Oh.
So Kazmachiev, who is like the hottest dude in MMA right now.
Wait, was he one of the ones that got?
He was one of the dudes that got 0 strikes in.
Oh, okay. I already. All right. Sorry, Welsh
like, well,
Wrecking.
Never mind.
Welsh Wrecking Machine. You probably want to change that one to Welsh Missing Machine, but let's go on to the next. His opponent.
Jun Yong, the Iron Turtle Park.
Ooh. Kind of like it.
He's 11-4. He's 11-4. He's got 5 TKOs. His last 10 fights, he is 8-2.
That's easy money.
And by the way, both of his losses are off chokes. He's 1-1 in the UFC. So like some form of choke is what he's lost off of.
So he's never been knocked out going up against a guy that only gets knockouts.
Yeah.
All right.
Moving on to the next one here. This is I gotta Claudio Hannibal Enrique de Silva.
Ooh, is he eligible? Is Hannibal not being claimed by anybody else?
No, I don't know. I don't know a famous Hannibal.
Oh, really?
Do you know a famous athlete with nickname Hannibal?
Oh, I don't. I was just talking about Hannibal, like the.
Yeah, it's Hannibal Lecter. That's the point.
Yeah.
He's like referencing. Isn't Hannibal Lecter like a real person?
There's the books and the TV shows about Hannibal.
I thought Hannibal Lecter was like a real person and he used to eat people. 38 years old. Makes him one of the oldest fighters on this card. Everybody talks about how old he is, and they're like, yeah, he's been around for a while, and he's always real wily. So he's like a wily vet type dude. 14-1. He got DQ'd in his first pro fight ever.
So I had to look up your question about Hannibal, Ashton. Some random thing. Apparently Hannibal Lecter was based off of an unnamed real life doctor that never got revealed on. So apparently, blah blah blah. Character was created by a guy named Thomas Harris. He revealed that the cannibal Hannibal is inspired by a real life doctor and murderer he met while visiting a prison in the city of Monterey. So there you go.
Interesting. Okay, So he's like a real person, kind of. Moving on, Claudio Hannibal Enrique de Silva. His opponent looks a lot like what is that boy's name? He's the James Dean of rap. I forget what his name is. I'll have to remember it. He dated Halsey for a little while. They have a song.
G-Eazy.
Yeah, he looks a lot. Yeah, James Krause looks a lot like G-Eazy. But yeah, the next. So Martyn, I think his nickname is but the nickname is listed as James Krause.
Yeah, I clicked on his name and looked it up, and there's actually like Reddit posts debating
Yeah,
if his nickname is the James Krause or just the, and it's not,
it should be and it should be a front nickname, which is really
but
rare.
it's not. He puts it in between it,
Yes, he does.
which
It
doesn't
is
make any sense.
it's the James Krause.
Okay.
We'll say it for the sake of this competition, it is the James Krause.
Okay.
He's 27-8 with 14 submissions. He actually took this fight on 13 days notice. If you know nothing about James, he's a dude who used to be on Tough. He's really good friends with Megan Anderson. They train together. Megan is getting ready for a very big fight. She's trying to avoid being murdered by Amanda Nunes in her next bout.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's James Krause. He's actually a little bit more focused on coaching than he is on fighting right now. So he's been kind of, getting close to that time where you kind of hang it up, and he feels like he enjoys coaching just as much as he enjoys fighting. So,
yep.
Moving on, next one here, Canadian, and a really good one at that. So she's got the most finishes in UFC flyweight history and most submissions. It's Jillian the Savage Robertson.
Okay.
8-4, and also she beat Shockwave at one point.
All right, so
shout out Hannah Cipher.
Shout out to our girl Hannah Cipher. What was it? 4 fights during quarantine that she just
she was
picked up.
She was a real MVP. She was holding it down for the squad, no doubt. She's an American top team fighter, 8-4, 6 submissions, and like I said before, she's one of the best flyweights ever. Very early on in her career, and I say early on in her career because she's only 25. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Moving on, her opponent does not have a nickname. Her name, though, is Poliana Botello.
Okay.
She's the fastest strawweight knockout in UFC history in 33 seconds.
Okay, wow.
Also, Martyn, you should look at her.
Okay. Give me a couple of seconds.
Next opponent. Sorry, let me turn the page on these notes. Oh, there we go. Didn't have to actually turn the page. Just had to flip the pad over. Moving on. Guran Katsaledze is the next opponent here. He's 11-2. This is his UFC debut. He's actually teammates with Khamzat Chimaev. He's teammates with him, and that's all I got on him because
not a lot known about
Georgia.
Him.
Yeah, he's from Georgia, not from parts unknown. He's from Georgia, the country, not the state. Sorry. Also, his opponent, this guy, Martyn. This guy right here.
This guy. This is something good. If you're saying this guy like that, he's got what is it?
I did some research on him. I'm excited to see him fight.
Okay.
Matus Gamrot.
Right.
17-0. First UFC fight ever. He is a 2 weight class champion in the Polish MMA big league over there. And he's the #1 pound for pound European fighter in the scene right now. So this guy, look out for him. This guy,
Gamer.
Polish.
His nickname's Gamer.
Yes.
I have to go with
Poland.
That, right?
He's an American top team fighter. He's very good at hurting people.
Okay. As a gamer myself, I'm probably gonna have to lean with the. Even though Gamer is a weird nickname for a fighter, but.
Gamer is supposed to be like the guy who's always in the mix, no matter what.
Yeah.
Maybe Gamer is a word in Polish.
Maybe.
Anyway. Moving on. Oh, this is the guy. All right, this guy right here. From Plainview, Texas, so we got to root for him even if you don't pick him.
Okay.
And I think he's automatically disqualified as well. Jonathan Dragon Martinez.
Yeah, there's been a couple
there's
only one dragon. Yeah.
There's only one main dragon, and then there's a lot of other subsequent dragons. I would also say that Goran Dragic is more famous than Jonathan Martinez for most people. But Jonathan is 12-3. He's 3-2 in the UFC. His background is street fighting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he says some people argue that he's got more street fights than Jorge Masvidal and Kimbo Slice. He's that kid who used to ask dudes to fight after school, not in a violent way, just for fun, legit. He's He's a dude that was born to fight, seemingly.
Yeah.
He's a Factory X dude, and he's 12-3 in his career. He has a decision, and he lost one in a really weird way. But Plainview, Texas, is where he's from.
Okay.
His opponent, he has a nickname, but like, not really. It's just how you. It's like, so it's Tom. Sorry, I gotta say it in an accent. Tomas Tomenhas Almeida.
Yeah,
21-3.
I think that
It
like
just means
means something
Thomas
in
in
Brazil. Yeah, it's like
It
a
just means Thomas in Brazilian, I think.
yeah,
It's the equivalent, I think.
yeah,
But
or
yeah,
like a
he's a
cool way of
shootboxer.
saying it. You know what I'm saying? Like add a little spice.
Tomenhas is definitely way cooler than Thomas.
Tomas.
I
Yeah.
can confirm. Um, Tomenhas Almeida, shoot the box guy. He's 21-3, 17 TKOs, Martin,
Damn.
and he's 2-3 in his last 5. So weird place. This one you'll like. This one's like short and sweet to the point. He's also this is not the British dude. He's from Australia. Jimmy the Brute Crute.
See, that's a good one. It goes like it kind of rhymes. The last couple of letters are the same. See, that's just like a good nickname, but not like a fearsome one. You know, like probably doesn't put fear in anybody. But the brute, you don't want to mess with brutes.
I mean, he's letting you know what time it is, like
Exactly.
right off the name.
Yep.
11. He's 11-1 in his overall MMA career. He's 4-1 in his last 5, and he's 3-1 in the UFC. He lives in a van on purpose.
On purpose.
He's one of those van life guys.
Okay.
Like he doesn't like to pay rent. He's like intentionally homeless, so he has like a souped up van that he sleeps in.
Okay.
He says he literally hates paying bills, and the bill that he hated the most is rent. That he hates the most is rent. So he lives in a decked out van. This other guy, this is a dude that I'm excited to see what happens. So you got Jimmy the Brute Crute
Okay.
versus Modesta the Baltic Gladiator Bukakas. Busakas. He's 11-2. He is a former sparring partner for John Jones.
Wow. Okay.
1-0 in the UFC. He lost his MMA debut in 18 seconds. His dad has been involved in his MMA career his entire life. He started training at like 4, and then he took off to continue to play basketball in America. Like he came to America to play basketball and didn't get a college scholarship and stuff.
Mhm.
He took 2 years off. He tore his meniscus he had a girlfriend at the time who like kind of didn't believe in his MMA dream. And he got like he started because he had like a lot of hype around him at first, and then the injuries piled up, and then he wasn't fighting, and he kind of fell off the map, and then he came back. He used kickboxing to eliminate the hesitation that he has in fights, and he no longer looks to win fights. He looks to administer the most punishment.
Wow.
Because that's how he thinks you win.
Okay.
Which is a good point. But yeah, he rebuilt himself using kickboxing. So that is Modesta, the Baltic Gladiator Bukakas. Sorry, got one more page here. We're almost done, ladies and gentlemen. So we got this next fight here. This is the 10th fight of the night. There's only 2 left, by the way. This is Caitlin the Blonde Fighter Chukin, 14-3.
Chicagian.
Her last fight, she took an L from. She beat Valentina Shevchenko's little sister, and then the fight before that, Valentina Shevchenko beat her.
Yeah, I just clicked on her name to take a look, and she's fought the Shevchenko sisters in her last 3 fights. So
yeah,
that's
and
interesting.
When she fought Valentina, it was for the title. The only other 2 losses that Caitlin. Caitlin has is to 2 other title contenders who lost to Valentina.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like legit, like top tier, 14-3. Her opponent is Jessica Bataesca Andrade. Jessica Andrade, who we've mentioned before on this show before. She lost to Rose Namajunas most recently in a decision in a fight that was really emotional for me and Martin because we both like Doug Rose a lot.
Yeah.
But Jessica Andrade is moving to her 3rd weight class.
Okay.
Making her the only UFC fighter in women's history to ever do that. She's moved to flyweight so that she can challenge Valentina.
Yeah.
She wants to go for that belt. And she has fought in 3 different weight classes. She says that, sorry, that's his first ever to do it in the UFC. She also says that it may not be done. May not be done. But yeah, Jessica Andrade, the pile driver, by the way, is what Bata Aska means.
I remember, I think the last time we talked about her, that's what we were trying to figure out what it meant.
Jessica Bata Aska, in parentheses, pile driver Andrade. That should be a good fight. That's 2 title contenders right there, and the winner gets to fight Valentina. Which, if you've never seen Valentina fight, it looks like it hurts.
Yeah,
it looks like it hurts. I'll just say it like that. Anyway, moving on to the main event is Brian T. City Ortega. He's from Torrance, California. That's why his nickname is T. City. 14-1. His only loss, Martyn, to the man himself, Max Blessed Holloway.
Yep.
A dude who has been hustled so many times in MMA. It is ridiculous. Been hustled out of his title at least twice. Pulled out versus Zombie, Korean Zombie, who's his opponent. We'll talk about that a little bit later. He pulled out in this original bout that was supposed to happen in December due to injury. He's also been talking mad cash shit about Zombie on Twitter.
Yep.
And if you know anything about Korean Zombie, it's not smart. It's not a smart move, especially for your overall health.
Don't wild up people with Korean Zombie, man. That guy, I mean, even in his losses, just throws.
We'll get into why they call him the Korean Zombie in a second here. But yes, his opponent, the winner of this fight, by the way, gets a shot at the featherweight title.
Yep.
Chan Sung Jung, who most people know famously as the Korean Zombie, for his ability to take relentless and, in certain cases, as it's been described, endless amounts of punishment in a fight. He is one of the best to do it. He is well revered not only in America, but internationally. He is from Seoul, South Korea. His people go hard for him in the streets. Like, legit. They go hard for him in the streets because Seoul and South Korea as a whole is so small that anybody who makes it to the national stage, they cape for him hard. And I love to hear stuff like that. I love to hear guys getting support, win, lose, or draw. And that's exactly what the Korean Zombie gets, especially for me. I don't know about Martyn because, Martyn, he gets down with like the dudes that talk a lot. Korean Zombie's a doer, not a talker. But yeah, that's what his whole nickname is about. He also has been working on the ability to not blink.
Wow.
So that he can see everything that you throw at him. That's what he's been working on. But yeah, that is...
All right, Ashton.
That is the card, Martyn. What you got?
So the main event, just really quickly, I know we went over 3 hours just now, or we're getting close to 3 hours, so I'll try and make this quick. So Brian Ortega is kind of known to be a submission specialist, correct?
Yeah.
Korean Zombie, never been submitted his entire career. So to that one, I give the point to the Korean Zombie. Yes, Brian Ortega's nickname is T-City, but when they put cards together, they still put Ortega. When they make posters and when they make promotion, they still call him Brian Ortega. When they make promotion for Chan Sung Jung, nobody fucking knows who Chan Sung Jung is. They know the Korean Zombie. And if you think I'm going to be picking against somebody like the Korean Zombie, you have not been paying attention to this part of our show for the past 6 months. I put that up there with the last Stylebender, with a couple of the other nicknames that just...
Notorious, Bones.
Yes. I mean, Ashton can name them off. The fighters that I love are the fighters with the nicknames that you can say it and you know exactly who you're talking about. So Ashton, here is my 5. I just want to put this out there. I don't want to pick the co-main event because, well, one's the pile driver and the other one's the blonde fighter. So obviously, if we're going like fearsome, I'm going to be honest. I'm not the biggest fans of Jessica or Chikagian. Just not the fights that I've seen them fight in. Yeah, Jessica Andrade beat Thug Rose the first time they met or whatever. I'm just not a fan of watching either of these two fight. But I am interested to see.
Hard as hell though.
I am interested to see how they both fight, especially with Jessica stepping up in the weight class. But these are the 5 I'm going with. Fairs, Smile Killer, Zayam. I like that one, Smile Killer.
The Frenchman.
Yeah. Jun Yong, the Iron Turtle Park. I think that one's a good one, especially with his record. Claudio Enrique Hannibal da Silva. If your nickname's Hannibal and you're not bringing it, and basically like if you pick one nickname like that, you have to back it up. It's one of those things. You have to back that up.
You can't have your nickname be like a murderous cannibalistic doctor.
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on. And then like I said a minute ago, I can't not pick I can't go against what I am. So I'm going Matus Gamer Gamerot. And then of course, like I just said, the fifth and final one on the record, Chan Sung Jung, aka the Korean Zombie. I think this one is going to be one of the better main events that I mean, we've had some great main events, especially on Fight Island. For some reason, they bring it up, even though last week's was we've had some great main events, and this one there's bad blood between the two. T City, he says that Korean Zombie kind of ducked him, even though he had a fucking, was it a broken orbital bone, or was it T City that had
Yeah.
the broken orbital bone, or was it Korean Zombie?
So he was talking mad shit about him on Twitter and stuff like that, and then he actually apologized, like during the press conferences and everything. He was like, "Yo, I was just trying to get people hyped up for the fight."
Oh
Like
God, you can't.
he said the quiet part out loud. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah,
what I'm
it's
going
how it
with in this
goes.
one, Ashton. We've got our NFL Week 6 picks. We got the UFC nickname picks. We've talked about quite a bit in what's popping, especially some delusions, some fantasy football, best of the best, the NBA bubble, worst of the worst, Arthur Blank. Le'Veon Bell was about a week ago. McGregor Poirier 2, talking money. That's it, Ashton. I think we're out. We'll be back here on Tuesday to wrap up Week 6 of the NFL. You got anything else to say?
Yeah, man. We got all that stuff and all those different segments. Talk that out. Most importantly, what you got is $23 if you download the Thrive Fantasy app and use the promo code BrokeBoy,
Yep,
and your
right here at the
first
bottom.
deposit is $20. They match it. So you can get $20 for free to put some money down on some prop bets and get some points. Get this cashola. And Martyn's been able to get in the money twice in the couple of weeks that he's been trying to do it. You're smarter than Martyn.
Yeah.
You are. Go out there, get that money. Most importantly, guys, when you watch these games this weekend, don't be mad, don't be happy, don't be sad. Just enjoy the ride. Last and most important thing to say: wash your hands, wash your ass. Matter of fact, wash your whole body. Wash your whole body. But most importantly, stay home, Roger.